What's up, everyone? I'm JayDreamerZ, and we're talking about the plasma apocalypse. If you're not familiar with the topic, I have a whole playlist dedicated to it. Start with the first one called Plasma Apocalypse, and feel free to check out all of the corresponding videos that are completely related to the topic. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in this video is answering the question or responding to the question a lot of people have been asking me. People are very direct. When it comes to the end of the world, there's this funny catch-22. Everyone wants to know, well, when's it going to happen? Tell me when. Tell me when. But the second somebody comes out and says, it's going to be on this date at this time, and then it doesn't happen, or, you know, even before that, people are like, oh, nobody knows when it's going to happen. How dare you, etc. And I don't want to get caught up in that. I will talk about what other people are saying, and I will also give you my best guess, okay? I'm going to tell you some very strong possible candidates as to the approximate time, okay? So, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff having to do and pertaining with the end of the world, specifically the plasma apocalypse. I'm going to go over every aspect of the plasma apocalypse, a little shorter and more direct and to the point. We're going to cover everything, but first things first, let's talk about when. Some people are suggesting this year, and you know, I have seen a lot of signs around, and I also was starting to feel like, man, I wonder if it could be this year. Now, some things that we do know is it's supposed to happen. And by the way, I should also throw this out. This is all speculation, theory, based on my own research and my path that I'm walking. This is how I feel now in this moment. So I'm not telling you all what to believe or that I'm right or anything like that. But I could be right, but I could be wrong. You never know. So listen and weigh it all out for yourself. See how you feel about it. Take what resonates and continue on your path. All right. So with that being said, some people are saying the end of this year, and a lot of people are asking me, do you think it's going to happen at the end of this year? Because it's supposed to happen Christmas time. Okay. It's a week-long occurrence that happens basically Christmas Day to New Year's Day. I don't think it's going to happen at the end of this year. A lot of people are going, whew, thank you, JayDreamerZ, right? But like I said, I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. I could be on point, but I'm going to explain to you my reasons for when I think it's more likely to happen. I think it's less likely to happen at the end of this year, and we'll go over some reasons as to why. First things first, I want to acknowledge Jesus in the Bible, okay? Jesus in the Bible said, it doesn't matter if you're religious or not, I'm just, referencing the Bible as a book, as it is, the most read book ever, allegedly. So, no man knows the day or the hour. That's basically what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 24. That's the huge, that's the biggest source of like, hey, like asking Jesus, what's going to happen at the end of the world? In Matthew chapter 24, which we'll go over, he basically tells everyone what to expect and what to look out for. Now, he says no one knows the day or the hour. And that's something that a lot of people like to throw out there at people who are trying to look out, and they're watching the signs and they're watching the times and they're trying to get a feel for where we are on this timeline, right? So a lot of haters basically come right out and say, how dare you talk about the end of the world? Or some people will say, that's doom and gloom. I don't want to hear all that. And that's fine. You don't have to. It's totally fine. I'm not here to scare people. I'm here to guide and educate if possible. So I acknowledge no man knows the day or the hour. So I'm telling you right now, I have no idea what hour this is going to take place. I have no idea exactly what day it's going to take place. But I do have an idea of the time frame around the time that it may be taking place, the strongest possible times, right? And we're going to talk about all of those reasons, right? Now that I've said that, I'm going to tell you when I believe the strongest possible time is. First, there are a lot of symptoms of the end of the world, okay? Before the apocalypse comes, mankind and womankind have been given plenty of prophecies and predictions and signs to look for. People have come and gone who have said, look for these signs. These things will tell you, because none of these people knew, oh, well, the end of the world is going to be on this day at this time but they said, we do know what to look for. We do know the season that these things are going to occur in. We will tell you all about it. Every culture and religion across the world has had these. We're going to go over many of those later on in this video as well. Now, like I said, no man knows the day or the hour, but we can guess, right? We sure can guess. We can look at the times, we can look at the signs, we can look at the things happening around us, and we can give it our best shot, right? However, last disclaimer, it's always the best possible, it's always the best thing to just be ready all the time, right? What if it happens tomorrow? What if, it's best to be prepared. It's better safe than sorry, as they say, right? Okay, so some people have suggested the end of this year. I don't think that that's as likely. I am going to suggest that we look at another thing that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, which was, pray that your flight not take place in the wintertime or on the Sabbath. Now, this is in Matthew 24. Jesus himself is talking about when these things are going to happen. And he comes right out and says, winter, Sabbath, right? So we're going to look at winter and we're going to look at the Sabbath. We already know winter time. We already know it's Christmas time, from Christmas to New Year's, approximately right in that time, or right in that timeline. The winter solstice is going to be the key point to really start, looking around and seeing what's going on for the next 3 days after the winter solstice. But let's get right back to what Jesus said, wintertime and the Sabbath, right? Now, the end of this year, of course, will be wintertime, right? Around the solstice of this year. However, let's go over to screen sharing. I'm going to explain some of these pictures as well. Actually, before we go to screen sharing, let me go ahead and explain some of these pictures. Now, down below me here is a little composite video I put together of David LaPointe's Primer Fields number 2. And that is something that he has put onto YouTube for everyone to enjoy. You're free to use it if you would like to. It falls under Creative Commons. Please give him a link in the description and let people know where they can check out all the rest of his video. And the link is in the description in this video as well. This video beneath me is going to give you an idea, not an exact answer, not an exact model to anything, but this is going to give you an idea of the type of cosmological structure that I'm coming from, that I'm talking about, okay? However, the plasma apocalypse absolutely can still apply regardless of whatever your cosmological beliefs are, okay? Especially if you hold to the teachings of academia, which talks about the plasma sphere above us and the plasma tubes that have been found encircling our world, right? So this one's going to give you a better idea as to the cosmology where I'm coming from. The one down there in the corner is a little video I've made of an image, which is this one down here, and then I superimposed an image of the ancient Hebrew concept of their cosmology, especially to show the place called Sheol, the underworld, the land of the dead, etc. And then I'm going to talk about that later on as well. So if you see those, that's what that is. Over here right next to me is camera 2. I'll be using camera 2 here in a minute as well, in order to draw some things out. I have a lot of stuff to cover, so let's jump into it. Let's go to some screen sharing over here. Now, this is a chart of the various winter solstices starting in 2014, going to 2024. We're going to look at this one right here real quick. So this is this year, 2019, December 21st. This says at 9:19 Mountain Standard Time, which is where I live, Mountain Standard Time. Well, you can't really see it that great. Let me see if I can pull it over for us. There we go, see? So December 21st at 9:19. That is the end of this year. Let's compare that with what Jesus said. Is it in wintertime? Yes, it is. Is it on the Sabbath? Let's check our time zones here. So 9:19 p.m. This right here, see Denver? That's my area right there. So 9:19 p.m. Well, 9:19 p.m. Hold on. Let me go back over here. Oops, wrong one. We'll get to that one too. So, December 21st, that's the winter solstice at 9:19 p.m. All right, let's go ahead and check real quick. When is December? What day does December 21st fall on? Let's check out a calendar real quick, just to double check. All right, so this year, December 2019. A Saturday, okay? So a Saturday is the Sabbath for the Hebrews, for the ancient Hebrews. So Saturday the 21st is a qualifier because it is a Sabbath day. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. And we'll go back to this one. So this one does qualify, 9:19 p.m. Well, wait a minute. That's 9:19 p.m. on a Saturday, which actually, let me throw out something real quick. The Hebrews celebrated their Sabbath from Friday night when the first 3 stars would appear. Let's just call it, I don't know, 6 o'clock approximately, okay? But basically once the sun went down and the stars started to come up on Friday night, that was the beginning of the Sabbath. The same Sabbath that Jesus would have observed, okay? So Friday night to Saturday night when the sun goes down again. Once the sun goes down again, Saturday night, the Sabbath is over. So anytime on the Sabbath, after sunset, it's not the Sabbath. Anytime on Saturday, I should say, after sunset, it's not the Sabbath anymore. So is this still a qualifier? 9:19 at night. Well, not in my time zone. In my time zone, the Sabbath would be over by about 3 hours, maybe more. So let's go back here. Now, the Sabbath is over, 9:19 p.m. on Saturday. Let's go towards the East Coast. 10:19 Saturday, 11:19 Saturday, 12:19 Saturday, or Sunday. See, now we're too late. The whole rest of the world is still not in the Sabbath that Jesus would be talking about. So let's go backwards. 9:19 p.m. here in Denver. 8:19, probably still not the Sabbath yet. 7:19, now it's getting iffy. 6:19, we would have French Polynesia and Hawaii basically celebrating the Sabbath in the wintertime that Jesus, so basically only Hawaii and like Alaska and French Polynesia would qualify to receive what Jesus was talking about. So I don't think that one is as strong as a candidate as 2024. Do you see that one down there? Let's check out this one. I looked up the other ones. The other ones are non-qualifiers, okay? They don't fall on the Sabbath. Or, you know, not like this one. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check it, but I'm pretty sure none of those fall on the Sabbath. Let's look at December 21st, 2024. Let's pull up a map of it real quick. There we go. All right, December 2024. Boom. Okay, so here we go. The solstice is on the 21st. Let's just double check that. The solstice will be on the 21st, correct. Okay, so the 21st falls on a Saturday once more. Saturday is a part of the Sabbath. So let's see if it compares. Let's compare it the way that we did last time, right? Let's check the time. My local time would be 2:20 in the morning, December 21st on Saturday, 2:20 in the morning. Let's check the time zone map here. So 2:20 a.m. Saturday, right? Remember, Friday night to Saturday night, right? Okay, so 2:20 in the morning, Saturday night. I mean, well, that would still be like Friday night, okay? So 2:20 in the morning, we consider that to be like Friday night still, basically. Okay, so yes, this would still be the Sabbath, okay? 2:20 in the morning on a Saturday is still the Sabbath, okay? All the way until Saturday night. Remember, that's the important thing. Whew, I thought I messed up there for a minute, but I haven't, okay? So 2:20 in the morning, we're still in the Sabbath that Jesus was talking about in winter, right? Let's go eastbound. We're going to add an hour every time we go into a new time zone. 2:20 a.m., 3:20 a.m., 4:20 a.m., 5:20, 6:20, 7:20, 8:20. Now we're over here in the United Kingdom. 9:20 in the morning on Saturday is still the Sabbath. Let's keep going. So we're going to go 9:30 in the morning, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. Really close to almost the entire eastern side from where I am over here in Denver area. Now let's go the other way. 2:20 in the morning, 1:20 in the morning, 12:20 Friday night, still the Sabbath. 11:20 Friday night, 10:20 Friday night, it's still the Sabbath. It's pretty much the Sabbath across the map. the whole world will be experiencing Jesus's Hebrew Sabbath according to the Hebrew tradition. Friday night, first 3 stars come out. Those are the witnesses that a new day has begun because they went by the lunar calendar, right? So from nighttime to nighttime is one day, according to the ancient Hebrews and a lot of other cultures as well. So that's what I believe is going to be the strongest possibility for a candidate. Let me go back to the live scene here. I think that's the strongest possibility because the whole world will be in the qualifying range. Sabbath time, winter time, pow. We're going to look at a lot of other qualifiers at first, but I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention because I know a lot of you are worried. You're developing anxiety. I want you to at least have some hope that there may be more time for you, probably like, 5 more years to get ready and to prepare for this stuff. Now, that's not to say that in the next 5 years, a lot of stuff isn't going to be building up, because I believe it will. We're going to see a lot of stuff happening, but we're going to move on just for the sake of moving forward with everything. I'm checking my notes when I look down here. All right, so yes, 2024, strong possibility. Now, what I did not do is I didn't go forward and check all of the corresponding dates way out into the future, hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm not going to share all of those with you all, okay? I'm sure many of you can look it up on your own. When you do, check the date, check it according to the Hebrew Sabbath, see if it's got the qualifiers, and we'll go from there. But there are many possibilities, okay? This year just doesn't have both of those qualifiers. All right, so let's see here. And like I said, I'm not predicting the end of the world. I'm not saying the time. I'm not saying the day. I'm just saying the year, okay? So I can say the year as far as I know, okay? We can guess. It's okay. All right, let's see here. Let's talk about some other reasons why I am more inclined to believe that it may be occurring in 2024 as opposed to the end of this year. All right, let's see here. We're going to read Matthew 24 in just a minute, but before that, I would like to talk about Johann Kepler. Now, Kepler is a prolific name in the regions of academia, okay? Kepler is associated with, many things that are scientific and cosmological. He actually, one of his major influences was like his laws that he came up with in explaining planetary motion, okay? Now, planetary motion is not something that I necessarily agree with. However, I do find his creation date that he came up with to be very interesting to me, okay? Now, this is very interesting. Let's check this out. Johann Kepler. Let's see here. Let's go to screen sharing. Back to screen sharing. That way you can see exactly what I'm looking at over here. All right. All right. So if you go to Wikipedia and you just simply type in dating creation, there are many people who have tried to date the very beginning of all creation, okay? Many people using the Bible as a reference point, but some people didn't, right? Kepler did use the Bible in his research, and in his book, Mysterium Cosmographicum, he predicted that the world began, the first date of creation was April 27th, 3977, right? That's his date, 3977. So, get out a calculator because I can't screen share my calculator. But if you plug in 3977 BC, right? And then you want to add our AD years, which is 2024, you're going to come up with the date of 6001. 6001 days, right? Well, I'm sorry, 6001 years. But we have to account for the year 0. Because there is no year 0. So we're going to minus that 1. Now we're exactly at 6,000 years. Why am I so excited about that? Well, at the very least, I'm not sure how it is in the other religions. Christianity is the religion. Christianity and Judaism and probably Hinduism, a few others. But mainly, the Abrahamic faiths are what I really excelled in early on in my truth-seeking path. So I studied the heck out of the Bible, is all I'm saying, basically, right? Now, in Jewish lore, or if you were to read the Zohar is a compendium, a huge encyclopedia of basically the most wise scholars, some people would say, of their time. And they were basically giving an entire encyclopedia of commentary as to the truly deepest esoteric meanings that are hidden inside of the Bible itself, from A to Z, or from Aleph to Tav, basically, okay? And in the Zohar, it basically talks about how one of those deep teachings is that the Bible mentions that to God, 1,000 years is as one day, and one day is as 1,000 years, right? Now, some people just chalk that up to metaphor and, poetic writing and whatnot. But the scholars who wrote the Zohar, they were basically saying, no. What this is saying is every 1,000 year period is a day in the eyes of God. Now, God, who wrote the Bible, the God that we're talking about, basically says, hey, the rule is 6 days of work, 6 days of activity, and then 1 day of rest. So if you extend that out into the 1,000 year period, and 1,000 years are as 1 day, then you have 6,000 years is the end of the work week. Okay, for the earth, basically, for the earth itself. The earth is commanded by the Jewish and Hebrew God to rest, basically. And that's the 6,000 year mark is the marker where there should be an ushering in of 1,000 years of complete rest, right? Which for us basically means that's when the reset is going to happen. That's when the world is going to become purified and cleansed, and there will be a resting period or paradise type world for 1,000 years. Okay, now that's just, keep in mind, that's a very Christian viewpoint of that. However, I did want to point out that Kepler did predict that that's the date for the beginning of the world. And if that's true, and if those who wrote the Zohar are correct as well, well, what that means is that in 2024, we will mark the 6,000 year mark, or the 6th day being over, and the 7th day of rest now having to be ushered in. So that was one reason why. Another reason why, that's my scientific reason why. Okay, let's see here. Another reason why, let's look at politics. My political reason why. I can't believe I just even talked about politics on my channel, but I am now. So apparently, we have a president named Trump right now, and a vice president named Mike Pence. I did not know that, and I did not care about that. However, it came up during my research, okay? Excuse me, not a political person. So here's what Mike Pence says, the vice president who is representing Donald Trump. He says, we need to get to the moon by the year, guess what? 2024. Isn't that interesting? They're for some reason, they're reigniting this whole space race idea, which I find very laughable. We've got to hurry up and beat the Russians and the Klingons and the Vulcans and the Romulans and whoever. We got to be the first ones there. I'm sorry, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but that mentality is like a long time ago, okay? But anyhow, he's trying to get it back into style, okay? He's really trying to pump everyone up for this new moon mission, right? Because we all know we lost the technology. They don't know how to get past the Van Allen belt. We have to figure out how to get out of low Earth orbit, right? So there's all kinds of problems, so I can see why he's so excited about it. Anyhow, I digress. The point is, I believe that NASA and other space agencies, many of the world's elite, and maybe others on the guest list, that they will be firing off all of their rockets and missiles when this apocalypse kicks off. When on day one, when the sky opens up, that is their one and only chance to get out of here. And I believe that they will. I'm sure we're going to see all sorts of missiles shooting right up into that thing. And we're all going to think that we're being protected by our governments from the incoming alien invasion. In reality, they're out. They're gone. They're just leaving. They're saying goodbye. I'm sure some of them, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to them. But anyhow, that's what I predict is going to be happening with NASA. NASA, I believe they're the ultimate doomsday preppers, basically. All right. Aside from that, I gave you my scientific reasoning for the 2024 date. I gave you my political reasoning. I don't have a religion, but if I did, there's actually a lot of talk about certain Christian sects that absolutely believe that the rapture is going to happen by the year 2024. Okay? It's on the internet. You can look it up. I don't think I have the article pulled up right now. I don't. But yeah, there's some Christian denominations out there that are saying, hey, Rapture 2024, get ready. I went to their website. They have written out a whole letter to the surviving race of humanity that doesn't get raptured. I tend to agree with them. So if you're in that church, I wish you the very best of luck. You know, I call it getting sucked up into the sky. They call it rapture. They're going to meet their Lord in the air and forever be with them. I can't speak on if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing. That's for another video, okay? I wish you all the very best, whoever you are. I wish you good vibes. All right, now let's talk about my fantastic reasonings for why 2024 makes sense to me. First of all, I went to go play Frisbee golf with my buddy Aquarius, and I told him, you know what? I think I was wrong about the whole end of the world. I think it's closer to 2024. And he looks at me and goes, bro, are you serious? I totally thought it was going to be 2024, right? And then I was like, wow, okay. Synchronicity happening, right? We also have television show and movies, right? Let's look at this. This is from The Flash. I don't know how many people out there watch it, but The Flash is basically a comic book superhero, just like Superman and Batman, right? This is the DC universe, which I'm going to talk about DC right after this. I'm going to tell you what the secret meaning behind DC is. So this is the DC universe, and this is a clip from the show. I don't watch the show. Okay, I've never seen it. However, I did a little bit of research, and apparently what happens is the Flash goes missing sometime in the future. Look at the date on the newspaper article, April 25th, 2024. I find that to be very interesting, especially because of what it says underneath the picture of Flash. Red skies vanish. There's this huge thing of the red skies in the DC universe. Let me just, I'm making sure I didn't pull up anything else. I don't want to miss anything here. So in the DC universe, you know, they have this whole red sky phenomenon. As a matter of fact, a lot of fans, when they saw the previews for the Justice League, they were asking, they were writing all these comments. What's up with the red sky? Why is there all this red sky? Why is the atmosphere red in the Justice League, etc., and so on and so forth? I'm going to tell you why it's red, okay? All this Justice League stuff, basically, it's just the story of the end of the world. That's all it is. It's the same story. It's the plasma apocalypse being told over and over and over. Every story is, that's the beginning point and that's the end point. And all these stories in between are what we experience as we, you know, move about within that circle of life, okay? So all these superheroes, these are us, or if you'd like, the gods, okay? We'll talk about that more later. But these are them basically fighting to save the end of the world, okay? Now, so here's some thumbnails of the Justice League. As you can see, it's super red, like all over the place. There's all this red stuff. The sky's red. I mean, here's, same thing applies to like Stranger Things and so many other apocalyptic movies where the sky's all red. Now, let's look over here. Let's see here. Let me get out of that one. So this is actually a still frame. Here's the Batmobile right there. The Batmobile is shooting some lasers. Pew, pew. He's going to try to ram into this building or whatnot. But this is from the Justice League. You have all of these purplish plasmic tentacles rising up out of the ground, trying to wrap themselves around everything. Now, I talked about briefly in one of my videos, I talked about Starro, okay, who is another villain in the DC universe. He's basically the ultimate villain. He's Starro the Conqueror. This could be Starro, aka the plasma fingers, the plasma tentacles. This is how they are cartoonified. They are the Kraken, they are Cthulhu, they are, you know, so many different ways that they've been portrayed. A lot of times you'll see them just symbolized by this sort of brain-like cap and then just tentacles hanging down underneath and some sort of a creature that will typically just float around. That's, you know, they're personified or anthropomorphized in various forms. Those of us who are, you know, going down this particular path in our truth seeking, we will start to have the eyes to see these things all over the place. But enough about that. Last thing I want to talk about are the elections. In 2020, there's going to be a new election. Now, I don't follow elections, nor do I care really about elections. Focus. Okay. But if there's a woman running for president, I'm willing to bet that a woman is going to win, okay? Because we are going into the age of woman, or into the female vibration. The poles are going to shift. We are a male polarity, all right? Male polarity right now, we're shifting into a female polarity. So I believe one of the signs is going to be women are going to be in charge, okay? So I could be wrong, like I said. However, if that does happen in 2020, then it's going to solidify the 2024 experience even more, for me at least. But like I said, let's just look at some more of the signs here. I'm going to check my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, so let me re-acknowledge. Yes, no man knows the day. No man knows the hour. I agree. But we can guess. We're not forbidden from guessing. And we are pretty much commanded in the Bible, for those of you who look at the Bible. This applies to a lot of religions as well, okay? I talk a lot about the Bible because I've studied it the most out of all the other religious texts. But basically in the Bible, it basically tells you, you need to keep watch. You need to look out for all the signs, all right? You need to keep track of the time, because the days will be shortened for the sake of those who would be saved, so that people can have something to know, that, something to check out, to say, hey, is it time yet? Well, it's getting close, I could tell, because the days are being shortened. All right, so we talked about my reasons why I am more in favor of a 2024 date. Those being Johann Kepler's creation date, and how that will be 6,000 years from the creation date, ushering in the 1,000 years of rest for Mother Earth. Also, we're going to the moon by 2024. Well, that's their code for getting the heck out of here, okay? That's what they mean when they say going to the moon. They mean saying goodbye. They're not trying to hang out during the apocalypse, okay? They're trying to go to other worlds and establish themselves as the gods of those worlds, basically. That's one theory I have. All right. So yeah, we need to get to the moon by 2024. So the government's interested in this particular date. The Red Sky Crisis of the DC verse, the Flash, like I showed you, the elections, all of this stuff revolves right around the 24th. If you guys have some interesting anomalies that you've noticed about that particular day, please leave them in the comments. Leave a comment so we can all check it out. That way we can all do our own studying. Maybe that could be the wrong date. It could be some other day after that. So, don't hold on and wait around for that particular day. Like I said, it's best to always be prepared. Whatever your belief system, always be prepared, right? Okay. I did fix the audio as well, so hopefully the audio is working. If it's not working in both speakers, I'm gonna have to go to Best Buy and get some new equipment or something. So you'll have to just bear with it. I'm not gonna redo this video. This is entirely too much to talk about, so forgive me. Hopefully it's working though, because I did a test run. All right, let's continue on. All right, so let's see here. Let's talk about the meaning of DC. I talk about the DC universe, right? DC is a comic book creator. Let's go over to the live scene so I can get to camera 2. DC is a comic book creator, okay? Just like Marvel. Marvel has all their X-Men and all those movies and comic books. DC has their own little comic book universe, okay? So, I want to show you some things because I see DC all over the place. Actually, let's do some screen sharing real quick because I do want to pull up some examples here for you. No. Let's go ahead and I'm going to draw some pictures, then I'll do some screen sharing. So the audio is going to be a little quiet as I come over here, but I'm going to use what we already have up here. And like I said, if you're not familiar with this particular drawing right here, go ahead and check out some of my other Plasma Apocalypse videos where I break it down a little more in depth. And be sure to check out David LaPointe's channel. All right. So basically, in a nutshell, here we are. This is our snow globe type of a world that we live in. This is my own particular cosmology, like I said, but this is like the snow globe world. This Atari symbol right here is the air getting sucked out. So don't worry about that right now. All you need to do is pay attention to this. This is the dome of our world. All right, that's the dome. Up here, somewhere out there, all right, directly across from us basically, is another dome or another rooftop to another world. All right, so a lot of you have probably already figured it out by now, okay? This is the esoteric meaning to the D and the C. Now, it's not really the letter D and the letter C. It's the shapes that are important. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So, This is the D. This is the C. Right? You got the D, and you've got the C. Of course, I didn't put the line in the D. However, oftentimes, now all that is, that's just the two bubbles. That's all it is. The two domes, the two rooftops of one world and its sister world. We have a sister world, which we call the moon. Allegedly. All of this is my own speculation, okay? So I'm not saying this is the way that it is. I'm saying, wouldn't that be an interesting thought? Okay? Wouldn't it be interesting? Anyways, let's talk about it. All right, so these are the two opposing domes. These are two opposing worlds. They're worlds that are looking right at one another, a world on top of a world. And this is how I see our local universe, okay? So here's the secret to the DC. Sometimes they'll draw the D line, but they'll leave an opening, right? And they do the same thing over here. They'll leave those openings there purposefully because those represent worlds, right? Look at our world. There are openings. This is an opening down here, okay? This down here is the underworld, okay? This is the overworld. This is the world we live on right here. This is the world above us up here because there's actually gravity goes that way once you get to a certain point, okay? So there's another little world at the very top. There's our world, and then there's the world below us, okay? That world that is below us, that is between the flip ring and the choke ring, as David LaPointe points out, that is what I believe to be Sheol. That's the picture that I have down here. Let me go ahead and make this a little bigger for everyone so you can see it since we're talking about it. Okay, I've superimposed the ancient cosmology of the Hebrews. And you could pretty much superimpose any cosmology on top of this, and it pretty much works out. As you can see, you've got the earth right there on the top, sort of like a soup bowl, right? And then in the middle there, you've got Sheol. That's the hole. That's the inner earth. Sorry about that. That's the inner earth. That is the underworld. That is... That's where the dead go when they die, basically, according to every single ancient belief system out there. Not the newer belief systems, right? The newer ones have us all going up there to that top world. However, we don't, okay? We are all pulled down. Everything's pulled downward in this particular local area where we are, including the quote-unquote soul. It goes down into the waiting place of the dead, the underworld, or the whatever people... There's so many different names for it that people have. Okay, so that's why I put that up there. Let me go ahead and make this smaller again. Alrighty. Alright, we'll leave that right there. Okay, so back to camera 2, right? We're talking about DC, the secret behind DC, right? The D and the C represent... Oh man, I gotta get 2 microphones. All right, so the D and the C represent the 2 corresponding worlds, our world and our sister world. Okay, I just call it our sister world. Usually there's little spaces left open like that because they know there is a ceiling that goes above us. There's a bubble that goes above us. Okay, it's called the Confinement Dome, and it's made out of ice. You'll learn all about that. But underneath us, there are open regions. Okay, our world is cavernous, and there are worlds you can get right through. You can go downwards, okay, to a certain extent. All right, you can go in between that first area and that second area, and that's sort of like the basement of Earth, I guess you could call it. Okay, some people would call it hell. There's lots of different things that people call it. If you want to know more about that particular region, I highly recommend you read the Book of Enoch. That's the Ethiopian Book of Enoch, just the first book of Enoch as it's known, okay? Check that out because most of that book is actually describing the inner earth, okay? This is your hollow earth theory. This is all of this, okay? It's all connected. So let's go back to DC, all right? Oftentimes they draw a star. There's a star in here somewhere. Sometimes they might put it right there, okay? Sometimes they'll put it in other places, but for that, we're going to go ahead and do some more screen sharing. All right, so let's type in DC logo. Boom. Now, many of you are familiar with the company DC for the comic books. Some of you may see how they got the star in the middle right there. All right. All right, there's another star. This is the DC Shoe Company, all right? I used to be really into this particular company, and I had no idea why. Like, DC just sounded cool. And I mean, you know, this is why. There's a subconscious reason behind all of this. These are the two domes. These are the two worlds colliding. That's why you see them intersected like that. I know a lot of people in the chat are like, Vesica Pisces, Vesica Pisces. I know. I'm going to talk about Vesica Pisces here in just a minute, okay? However, these are the two domes colliding. This is what it's like when worlds collide, okay? Literally. This is what's going to happen during this cataclysmic event. Worlds will collide. Things from our world will be able to go to their world. Things from their world will be able to come into our world. Okay, this is the moment where you have your multiverse, where you've got, you know, in the comic books where they've got all these different universes and there's like different versions of everybody and stuff, and they can all, you know, have a certain time when they can get together. This is what that is for us, because fantasy is reality. Fiction is reality, okay? All that stuff that we are taught out there in academia and on the news and by the talking heads of society, that's fiction, okay? Our world is the reverse. Our world is upside down. Thankfully, our world is about to actually reverse so that it's made right, all right? Our upside down world will turn upside down, which will make it right side up. It will no longer be this crazy Alice in Wonderland, I don't belong here type of feeling, but it'll be home once more. All right, so anyhow, many people are probably already throwing out some more symbolism. I want to talk about, let's see, what is it? Designer logo. I don't remember the names of them. Oh, Chanel. As you can see, you've got the Chanel logo. It's the exact same thing. You're going to start to see a lot of these pop up. Okay, let's type in Vesica Pisces logo. Oh, I have it right there. Clearly, I've been researching it already. All right, so here's a really good example as well. See if I could make that bigger. All right, so you've got the MasterCard logo. The Under Armour is just the same symbol turned, you know, a little bit to the side there. All kinds of logos, the Gucci logo, the cool logo, all of these things are basically showing you worlds colliding. Let me show you one more that I think is really interesting too. The television show, the television series called The 100. Now, it's really interesting because they've got all these people falling, right? Which is what's going to happen. Everything's going to get sucked up, and then once that hole in our ceiling, in our sky, in our atmosphere, however you'd like to call it, once that hole seals up, right? All those things that were getting sucked up, they're going to all fall back down to the earth, including any people and animals and debris and trash and whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever didn't make it out is either going to get stuck at the roof of our world where gravity is reversed, basically, or they're just going to fall right back down to us. Okay, so that's interesting to me that they've got the people falling down there. But even more interesting is they have these two circles and they are colliding right there in the middle. They're smashing right together. And that's the symbolism that the two worlds that are surrounded basically like bubbles. They're basically bubble worlds. The Confinement Dome, I don't know if it goes all the way around. I'm not sure about that. I do know it goes over the top, as you guys, you know, whenever I switch to this view, down here, it'll show one of these magnetic bowls, okay? And the guy holds a little piece of metal inside of like a plastic straw, and you can see that little metal ball going boop right over where the Confinement Dome is. I'm not sure if I actually put that in here. Yeah, it should be in here. It should be right here. Anyway, you'll see that pop up. I'll just leave it on here for the time being. So yeah, that's the secret behind the DC. That's why we've got Washington, DC. That's why they put DC in everything. And it's just simply the two domes of the two worlds, and it's the symbolism of them colliding. Let me show you one more of what I mean. All right, let's go back to screen sharing. Let's look at the Hurley logo. Now, depending on how they draw these things, they're trying to tell you like basically how close we are to this happening. The Hurley logo looks like that, right? It's the two domes that's just, they're not intersecting, right? They're just real close to one another. And that's exactly why they draw it like that. Subconscious. Every single subconscious person, we know these things. Everybody knows these things subconsciously. We pick up on these things, okay? They could have drawn, that's not an H, okay? It's just not. No matter how that's not an H. That's two crescents right next to each other. Okay, that's two shapes just like that. We all know that's not an H. Okay, so it does. If you look it up, they'll say, oh, it's the letter H that's drawn real fancy because it's flowing, because, you know, surfers like to flow and whatever. Nah, dude, I'm telling you, that's what it is. It's two domed worlds that are right in front of each other, us and our sister world, okay? That's red versus blue also, by the way. For all of you out there who, you know, you remember the red versus blue, which is manifested in so many different forms. I remember playing, what's that first-person shooter game? When I was in the Marine Corps, everybody played this game. Now I forgot the name of it, but they had red versus blue, and that's what it is, right? We have a blue sky right now. Most likely they may have a red sky, you know, and then we go through this shift, and then they'll have a red sky, and we have a blue sky. That's where the whole red versus blue comes in. If I have to pick a team, I'm going to pick the red team, okay, because I've been on the blue team forever now. That's why I decided to wear the red t-shirt. But I digress. Let's move on. Okay, so we talked about, let's see here. We talked about the secret meaning behind DC. Let's go back to this. We can have something to look at. One more thing I want to talk about. We're going to talk about the signs of the times, okay? And we're going to look at a lot of signs. These are the things that you can look for to know that the time is getting near, all right? So don't wait for the, you know, December 2024. One second, sorry. Don't wait for the year 2024 and wait for December and just expect that's when it's going to happen because I watched the JayDreamerZ video, okay? But these are the signs that will solidify whether or not the times are really, really close, okay? I know a lot of people out there have been saying for years, oh, the signs are getting close, you know, because in this part of the world and in that part of the world and in this part of the world, and yes, you know, the naysayers will say, well, we have news now. We've got the internet. We're just more aware of the things that have always been happening, right? So here's what I'm saying. That is the case. Yes, we are more aware of these things, but these things, from the moment we became aware of them, from the moment that we had the internet and access to the internet, they have exponentially increased. Even though we've had the technology, they have increased since then. They're going to continue to increase, but the real signs are the worldwide signs, okay? Not local things happening like, oh, one volcano went off over in Hawaii. Oh, that's a sign, you know? No, those signs are the things everybody will see, everybody will feel, everybody will experience. You know what I mean? Those are the hardcore signs, okay? Because it's fair. It's fair. You can't just end the world and only let a few people experience the signs, right? Everyone needs to experience the signs. Otherwise, it's just not fair. And that's my perspective because I expect it to be fair, right? Anyway. All right. So I want to talk about zombies for just a second. I want to talk about the dead rising because that is one of the things that is, as I was doing my research on all these different belief systems and cultures and all the signs that they talk about, there were some common themes that kept popping up on the radar, right? And one of those common themes was the dead rising, and that's actually in the Bible too. If you know, we're gonna talk about it for just a second. But could this be? Well, I'm gonna talk about it real quick. Okay, first of all, biblically speaking, the dead rose whenever Jesus rose. Okay, so some of the dead. Okay, don't correct me on the technicalities of it, but the Bible talks about how the dead rose and they were seen walking around Jerusalem. Okay, so that is technically sort of a zombie. I mean, I don't know if they're the living dead. I don't know what to call that, and I don't want to insult any religions or beliefs or anything like that. However, the dead rising and walking amongst us is not just limited to our modern day concept of zombies, okay? But this is something that has been prophesied, predicted, and recorded in our history time and time again. We just forget about it. We're blind to it. We don't acknowledge it. We don't see it. We chalk it up to myth and science fiction and, zombies and we cartoonify it all. But the reality is the dead can rise, okay? Everything is possible. Gosh, I implore all of you, try to break out of your limitations. The world just wants to put limitations on everything. I'm telling you, the creative mind is unlimited. And the physical realities of our world, the academia is based upon and concerned about, those physical realities come from thought, from imagination. It's where it all comes from. Every single ancient religion will agree with this. Every single ancient wise person who has ever walked has talked about thought becoming reality. That's the way that it has to happen, okay? The invisible precedes the visible, always. Anyhow. All right, so zombies. Can zombies actually happen? Could we have a zombie apocalypse? How exciting! I mean, I don't know. For me, it's exciting, right? I mean, I take my son to go play zombie video games at the mall sometimes. So yeah, it's kind of fun, I must say. Now, I don't know if you're supposed to be killing the people who rise from the dead. I don't know what they're going to be like. I can speculate all day long. Ultimately, we judge them the way we should be judging anybody, which is based on their actions, right? That's how I would like to judge people. To judge me is based on my character, based on my actions, based on the things that I do. Okay, so I don't want to be quick to judge all the zombies, because just because I see people rising from the dead does not mean I should immediately grab my crossbow and shoot them between the eyes, right? Okay. However, if they're walking with a limp and jaws hanging off, and if they say the word brains, I don't know, man. I don't know. I might get triggered if they say brains. I'm totally kidding. I'm sorry. You got to have fun with it. It's the end of the world, man. Like, Generation Z gets it. Why can't we, right? Let's laugh at it. Anyways, let's also be serious with it too, okay? So let's get back into our serious mode. JayDreamerZ. All right. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything here. Oh, so zombies. Is it possible? Well, yeah, absolutely. The Bible has talked about it. And like I said, if you look at my drawing up here, this is the underworld, okay? This is where all the densest part of gravity, whatever you want to call it, that's where all the souls and spirits of the dead live, etc., and so on and so forth. But what if it's not just spirits just coming up out of the ground, right? What if it's not that? What if there's another explanation? I propose that maybe, possibly, that plasma that is coming into our world is sentient. That plasma, just like all things, that plasma is alive. That plasma is life. And it's basically disembodied spirit, if that's the case. If that's the case, then that's what that is. Now, I can tell you, using fiction's breadcrumbs of truth, the movie Ghostbusters talks about ectoplasm, you know, and a lot of people thought they made that up. The word ectoplasm has been dismissed in academia, but I'm here to bring it right back. Okay, ecto means outside of. Plasm is plasma. It's just plasma that's outside of something. Well, outside of what? Well, ectoplasm in Ghostbusters was a spirit. It was a ghost. Okay, so the plasma that is outside of the body, it is ectoplasm or plasma. Okay, that's what ghosts are. Let me just go ahead and pop up something else real quick for us to look at. One moment. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put a slideshow up here. Let me get these ones down. There we go. I'll just put it at the top. Okay. All right, even better. All right, so I've got a slideshow up here. Well, let me get rid of these ones as well, just real quick. There we go. Okay, cool. So at least now we've got this little slideshow to look at too. Okay, so where was I? I'm sorry about that. All right, it's going to be a long video. I'm trying to get it out as fast as I can. I know a lot of people just want me to just get right to the point and just give them all the answers. But this is something that you can't just give to somebody, okay? The people who really genuinely want to understand it and grasp it, you have to build bridges. You have to build bridges to go from one perspective to another. You can't just jump right out and say, hey, the world's going to end on this day, and here's what's happening. You're actually living inside of a being that's living inside of a being that's living inside of a being. It's a fractal verse. It's all isolated into one code, and there's only one. And you know what I mean? People are going to be like, oh, great, next video. You know? No, we need to understand these things and take our time with them. Building bridges. So let's build some bridges. Let's talk about what to look for, the signs of the end. Okay? The signs of the end, we're going to start with Matthew chapter 24 in the Bible, because that is pretty important when it comes to talking about the end of times. So we need to go back to screen sharing. All right, now I'm just going to read this whole chapter real quick. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike from the Lord, you know. So, but hopefully, I think the Lord's cool. So I think I won't get a copyright strike, so I'll go ahead and read it. All right, so Matthew 24, this is the King James Version. Jesus went out and departed from the temple. His disciples came to him. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Oh, you can. Okay, good. All right, Jesus said unto them, see ye not all of these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. He's talking about the temple in Jerusalem. Megalithic bricks, huge stones piled one on top of another. People speculate as to how those stones even got there in the first place, right? Well, I have some theories about that as well. But Jesus says not one of those stones will be left upon another. Guess what? Nothing is holding those stones down to the earth except for their own weight. All right. So whenever our electromagnetism gets shut off during the neutral point of our quote unquote polar shift, and for all the people who are hating on me for using the word polar, okay, saying, oh, there's only one pole, it's the North Pole, blah, blah, blah. Polar, okay, the polarity is shifting, not the poles, or, you know, I'm not, just calm down, okay? It's polarity that's shifting, all right? So during the neutral point of that polarity shift is whenever basically our gravity is goes bye-bye, okay? There's no gravity, there's no electromagnetic force pulling or pushing, and everything starts to basically lift up and float off of the ground, okay? Anything that is not tied to the ground will ultimately get sucked up into the hole in the sky whenever our world depressurizes, okay? It is going to depressurize, instantly fogging our world, putting us into the movie The Mist pretty much instantaneously. But we'll get back to that all in a minute. Back to Jesus. So Jesus says, none of these stones will be left one on top of another. And if this theory is correct, that's the reason why. Everything's going to float easily up into the air, regardless of whatever its weight. He goes on to say, as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? When shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Well, wouldn't you know, just like today, when you talk about the end of the world, first thing in the comments section, when's this happening? JayDreamerZ, when's it happening? Right? That's the first thing people want to know. You know what? That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. The same thing Jesus says. He says, that's a good question, I'm glad you asked. So let's see what he says to them. Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, claiming I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for these things must come to pass, for the end is not yet. Okay, so there's a few things happening. One, he's saying, in the end times, deception will be off the charts. You almost can't trust anybody, okay? Because everybody's claiming to have the answers. Everybody's claiming to be Jesus. Everybody's claiming to be the Messiah. You know, there's like, I don't even know how many, you know, self-proclaimed gods there are on YouTube. But it's more than one. I can tell you that. Anyway, so he says, be careful. There's a lot of deception happening in the end times. Would you guys say there's a lot of deception happening? Yes, I would say so. Many shall come in my name, blah, blah, blah. You shall hear the words of wars. Okay, so rumors of wars, right? Sort of, kind of. I expect there is going to be way more stronger rumors happening between now and 2024, if my guess is correct, okay? Excuse me. And possibly that could have something to do with the next presidential election. So, perhaps the wars and rumors of wars, yes, we've heard that, but I have a feeling it's going to be more like on a worldwide level, okay? All right, so let's read what else Jesus says about the end times. Nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. All these things are just the beginning of sorrows, says Jesus. He's saying this isn't even your plasma apocalypse. This is all the stuff that happens before that. I'm paraphrasing. Hope you don't mind. He doesn't mind. All right. Then shall they deliver up to you to be afflicted. In my mind, I can hear so many people right now like, don't you speak for the Lord? Like, even though they all speak for the Lord, right? Like billions of different lords. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. All right. I love all of you. I love you. I wish you the best, okay? I try to make light of the things I've been through that upset me. All right. Okay, so people will be, persecuted, killed, murdered, etc. Many shall be offended. Many shall betray one another. Many shall hate one another. Many false prophets shall rise and deceive many. It sounds like YouTube, so far. Sounds like a lot of the truther community on YouTube, unfortunately, that I've seen. People hating each other, people being offended left and right. Can you believe that? Instead of being thankful for all the wonderful information that other YouTubers have, right? Like, for example, let me just take a moment and get rid of my own hypocrisy. Roger, Mud Fossil University. Thank you, my friend. I love you, and I'm so glad that you added to my path that I'm on. Brian Austin 33, me his new pair of glasses. Thank you both for adding to the path that I am on. Who else do I like to watch? That's Impossible. James over the Impossible channel. I love your work, man. I'm so glad you and Mr. BBB 3000 are pretty much my news stations that I go to get my world news. I appreciate all of you guys. My point in doing this is that we should stop looking at all the things we hate, all the things that are wrong about all these other channels, and take what actually resonates. Take the good that they do offer. Take the things that they got right and say, hey, man, I appreciate that. Keep up the good work. You know what I mean? Get rid of all this negativity, man. I don't want it in the next world. And so I'm getting rid of it as well. All right, let's listen to some more Jesus. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world until this time, nor shall there ever be. Paraphrasing, he said, then it's going to get super bad. Everybody in the world is going to know, okay? There's not going to be conspiracy theories. There's not going to be speculation. There's not going to be guessing. Everybody's going to know, whoa, stuff is going down, okay? Everywhere. Everybody's going to know it. That's what I think he's saying right there, basically. All right. He goes on. Except that those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. All right, let me paraphrase. Basically, what Jesus is saying is, I needed to give you guys some sort of definite sign that the end is upon you. That sign is that your days will get shorter and shorter and shorter. Okay? Which means that the year also, I would expect, would get shorter and shorter and shorter. Now, how many people out there, let's take a vote. How many people out there in the last, 3 years, at the beginning of the year, you said, wow, that year went by fast. I feel like that year went by super fast, right? Well, guess what? It's not just something that happens as you get old. It's happening for everybody. Time is shortening. Time is quickening. The days are getting shorter. Jesus goes on to say, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here's the Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, false prophets. They shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch if it were possible that they would deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Basically, this goes back into the beware of the deception, right? He's not saying don't trust anybody. I know a lot of people out there have that mentality, like, don't trust anyone. You know what I mean? Dun, dun, dun. Don't trust anyone. Like, nah, I don't think that's what he's saying, He's saying that just use your reasoning, If you use wisdom, then you can get a better understanding of how to trust people instead of just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But, some people could definitely say that about me. People could say, oh, JayDreamerZ, like, I should totally not trust you either because I've been called a false prophet. I've been called all kinds of things. Okay. So take it with a grain of salt. Okay. Be the salt of the world, etc. I don't want to get too religious on this one. So let's just move on. Let's get to the good stuff here. All right. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert. Don't go there. Basically. Behold, he's in the secret chambers. Don't believe it. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth, even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Well, wait a minute. What is this talking about? The lightning going from east to west or whatnot? Lightning doesn't do that. There's got to be another explanation, right? Lightning doesn't always go east to west like that, okay? But this is an interesting phenomena that is being associated with the coming of the Son of Man or the apocalypse, the end of the world, the beginning of the next world or whatever, right? He's using lightning. He's talking about lightning. That's really interesting. Electromagnetic discharge. Let's see what else he says, right? And another good thing, by the way, is Jesus is also trying to comfort all of you by saying, this isn't going to last forever. Okay. It's actually going to happen very quickly. So that's, I'm paraphrasing there, but now let's get to the juicy stuff here. 4, wheresoever the carcass is, there the eagles shall be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. I want to say it like the movie guy. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be turned to dark, and the moon shall not give her light. Her light. Check that out. It's sister world, right? And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. Okay, so in a nutshell, right? This is talking about the plasma apocalypse, okay? The sun shall be darkened. Sun's going to go out. It's going to be dark everywhere. The moon won't give its light, okay? I have a theory that you still might be able to kind of see the moon or parts of it because the moon is their roof and they're going to go through the same type of thing. And their dome is going to crack open and we'll probably be able to see it break apart, basically. The stars shall fall from heaven. Now, I don't know exactly what that's talking about because I'm not exactly sure what the stars are. Just to be honest, I'm still trying to figure that one out, okay? Or at least get a better idea of what that may be. But I can tell you, according to academia, there are like hundreds of, or at least tens of thousands of satellites that are up there, which, by the way, that could be very real. I know a lot of people don't like believing in academia, but let me just show you real quick how satellites could be possible. And the ISS could actually be possible. So let's take that one off there. Let me go back to camera 2 and I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm just going to erase this part right here. Remember this. I can always redraw it for everybody. But in our world, remember the snow globe world, basically. Okay? Gravity, I use the word gravity because many people still believe in gravity. Okay? So if you don't, just use the word substitute electromagnetic force. Okay? Whatever you would like to substitute. But the direction of pull or push is what I'm talking about. Inside of this snow globe world, all right? Here's our ground. That's the ground. It's got some grass and a happy tree. It's a happy tree, okay? Happy tree, for those of you who can't hear me. All right, gravity works like this. It goes down, boom, down, boom, down, boom. It goes this way at the top. And in the middle there, neutral. You probably can't read that. That's fine. Anyhow, you get the point. Basically, up in the sky to a certain height, it becomes neutral, okay? So the gravitational force or the electromagnetic force, instead of pulling down, it starts to enter a neutral area and flip around, which happens a lot in the world of magnetism, actually. But yeah, the gravitational force or the electromagnetic force flips around and it goes upwards. So that's one way that you could possibly have satellites really up there in the sky, not beyond the sky, not beyond the ice ceiling, the highest, hardest glass ceiling, the roof of our world, okay? Not beyond that, but inside of it, right? All these little satellites up there. Let me grab a different color. All these little satellites in this particular area, including the ISS, right? That is a possibility. Now, I don't think the ISS is ever going to really show you behind them and stuff, because behind them is another ocean that's stuck to the roof of our world, possibly more land from all of the debris that stayed up there. You know what I mean? Possibly the giants, possibly the ice giants of old, that could be Jotunheim for all I know. That's one of my theories that I am working on, is that basically what happened to all of the giants? What happened to the gods of old? Well, guess what? If you go all the way out to the edge of that snow globe, okay, if that bubble extends outward, it doesn't just come straight up to a halt, a screeching 90-degree angle, but if it actually bubbles outward, it may be possible for the giants of old, the frost giants, to just walk out to Antarctica and continue walking until they arrived up there, okay? Making a home above us, looking down on us, basically. Now, let's think about this. Let's just say that that's correct, okay? I don't know if it is or not. It could be wrong. Let's say that that's correct, okay? And that there are beings living on the top of our world. Do you think they would be a bit concerned about our ceiling blowing up and being depressurized and everything going up out of that, which would be their ground, right? Don't you think that they would be a bit concerned about that? What do you think they would most likely do? They most likely would get out of there, right? If there are beings living up there, they most likely would say, hey, times are getting close. Let's make a journey and go back around to the ground level once more, right? So that could possibly help to explain why things, why certain cultures and histories and religions and areas have talked about the end of time, including the return of the giants, or the return of the titans, or the return of the elves, or the return of the gods. You know, Ragnarok is probably the best example that I can think of. And not only that, but Marvel did a really good job at, you know, kind of representing it, at least giving us something to look at, you know. I digress. Let's see. Let me check my notes. Where are we here? Let's see here. Recap, plasma, apocalypse. We did DC, the esoteric meaning of DC. We talked about zombies. Oh, I want to finish my zombie rant real quick, okay? The plasma may be sentient. I hope it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Well, I'm just saying that's what I believe, okay? I don't believe in a lot of things, but I believe everything is alive, okay? Because I feel like it would just be pompous of me, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but I believe everything's alive. I believe that the plasma also is alive. It is sentient, I should say. Okay, it's a life force, if you will. It is ectoplasm, etc. Now, let's say that life force, or that plasma, comes into our world. It is going to be acting as a purifier, okay, which is something that plasma does. It cleans things to an extreme degree. It purifies a lot of stuff that it touches, okay? And all these things are going to happen in various forms, all right? But let's look at plasma as if it was a sentient life form, okay? It comes down into our world. Essentially, it leaves the ethereal world, the heavenly realms, or the, you know, I don't know what else people want to call it, okay? But it leaves that particular state of being. It descends down into our world, where our world becomes very dense, okay? That's where we get land and dirt and all that stuff because of how dense things are, okay? And it literally starts to take shape. What if the plasma that enters into our world, we're going to have an influx. Think about that. Right now, in our world, inside of this little snow globe, which is on like every show now, by the way. You can almost always find a snow globe in the movies or on TV, right? Inside of this right now, there's already plasma everywhere. The plasma is all over the place. It's everywhere in our sky. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. Now, the plasma in our world right now does not always manifest, you know, like the proton packs from Ghostbusters. It doesn't always manifest as quote unquote ghost sightings, even though I'm starting to believe that that's what that is. But plasma takes every form. It takes many forms, right? And it loves, I believe, it seems like it loves to just take form, right? It almost, I don't know, it just seems to me like plasma loves to take form. And everything in nature sort of follows this plasma shape, right? The plasma shape where you've got this sort of like tree shape. I like to call it the tree shape, right? Of course. So plasma comes down and it likes to split. Well, you get the picture, right? Plasma likes to split. There's usually like a trunk, and then it splits, and then that splits into like more, And that splits into like more. And then up here, the top of it will split. Here, let me just get rid of all this. All right, the top of it will split off and do the same thing on this side. All right, basically making like a tree. So to me, this is the quintessential plasma shape. Okay, you've got a trunk and then you've got opposing arms that come out, basically. Now, we follow that shape, right? We do. We've got a trunk to our body. We've got all these opposing, and see, even my arm. My arm is a branch of the trunk. My arm has its own branches, right? And those branch off in fingernails or whatever. I don't know, but let's just say that plasma is sentient. Let me get rid of that picture. People don't pop in right now and they don't know what they're looking at. Well, let's get that one back up. We'll take off camera 2 and we'll put the slideshow back up there. That'll work. All right. So here's my theory, basically. The plasma is sentient. It comes down here. It gets itself into inanimate objects, empty vessels, so to speak, okay? And it just grabs the wheel. Basically, it starts to drive around. So that could mean that all the dead bodies could very much become animated. I could see that happening. You know what else I could see happening? I could also see plasma taking on shapes of its own. If it doesn't basically possess an inanimate shape or an empty vessel, it very well may just start to manifest physically into whatever shape it desires. That's just some, those are just some of my far-fetched thoughts about it or whatnot. But think about this. Let's say that the plasma chooses a robot as its vessel. Let's say that the plasma jumps into our modern robotics or artificial intelligences, and all of a sudden, because plasma is sentient, it basically has a choice. And now our artificial intelligence comes alive, being inhabited by plasma, and all of a sudden it has a choice. I know I'm super digressing from the topic a little bit, but I did want to share some of my theories with you guys just because I find them to be interesting. So I hope you do too. But let's move on now. Are we done talking about, let's see, what else did Jesus say? Okay. All right, so let's move on here. Let's see what Jesus says again. And then we're going to get into the other religions as well. Immediately after the tribulation, the sun shall go dark. And let's move to this next one. Then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, which is the sky, and shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. This is something everyone will see, okay? And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet. Let's stop right there. The sound of the trumpet, that is the sky sounds. The strange sounds in the sky that everyone's been recording, everyone's been seeing and listening to, those are the trumpets, okay? I'm convinced of that already. When you blow the trumpets, walk around Jericho, the walls come crumbling down. Our ice wall is that wall that comes crumbling down, okay, at least in part. But that's the trumpet. It is what's happening above us, okay, to our highest, hardest glass ceiling. It's melting, basically, and it's thinning out, and it's probably starting to crack, if I were to guess a little bit further. So, Jesus says, watch out for the trumpets. The angels are going to come with the trumpet. Let me read this again. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, one from each end of heaven to the other. So the angels, which are not terrestrial beings, one could say they are extraterrestrial or ectoterrestrial, right? If you're a Ghostbuster, there's a correlation between the sound of the trumpet coming from above, coming from the sky, and angels coming down, okay, at the same time. This is also reflected in the whole DC universe, Marvel universe, portals opening up in the sky, strange things happening in the sky. This is all the same story, okay? But let's read on. All right. Now, let's get down here. He says, learn the parable of the fig tree. He's talking to the people who want to know the exact time and day. He says, when his branch is tender and he shall put forth leaves, then you know that the summer is near, right? So this is how you know that you can't tell what exact day the figs are going to be ready, what exact day your avocados are going to be ripe. You can get close, you can get approximation, but you can tell when you're close by looking at the signs, by looking at the signs around you, right? And that's what we're doing. So he says, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things become fulfilled. Could that be Generation Z? The final generation, the last generation, the generation that won't pass until all these things are fulfilled? I don't know. That's an idea that I have. Possibly. Possibly not as well. I have to be fair. All right, heaven and earth shall pass away. Well, the heaven is the sky. The sky is going to fall. The sky is going to go away, okay? It's going to become made new again. We'll have a new sky or a new heaven. The earth is also going to get changed, okay? Very, very dramatically, very drastically. It's not going to be the same place that we all remember. Good for us. Many of you are not going to remember, okay? I'll talk about that in a bit. But memories are going to be wiped in many places. Don't worry, you'll still, know how to function and live, but you're not going to remember anything. It's going to reset your brain, basically. All right. That day and hour, nobody knows, not me, not the angels, only the Father, right? That's the day and the hour. But as in the days of Noah, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man. As in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. Okay, so paraphrasing. Basically, he's saying it's going to be the same thing as last time. This is all cyclical, People are not going to believe it when you talk about it. People are not going to want to hear it, even if they did believe it. People just want to carry on having a good time. And guess what? That's fine by me. That's their decision. And I respect that. Some people are like, man, it's the end of the world. I can't do anything. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. We need the poo. All right, let's continue on. Let's get into the juicy stuff here. Man, I thought it was shorter than this. Sorry about that. All right, so let's get to this part. 2 shall be in a field, 1 shall be taken, and the other shall be left, or left behind. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, 1 shall be taken, and the other will be left behind. I should do like a promo for the Left Behind series. Left behind. Don't get left behind, right? Well, anyhow, if the plasma apocalypse holds true, this is just people getting sucked up into the sky. You can call it whatever you would like to call it, but it makes sense. If they're in a field, one person's able to hold on to something and the other person's not. One gets sucked up, okay? Another person gets sucked up. That's all I see when I'm reading this. And this is, of course, this is my own interpretation of what I'm reading. All right, so it basically says, keep watch because you don't know what hour your Lord will come. I agree, we don't know the hour. But know this, if the good man of the house had known, okay, basically he's just saying be prepared. Let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, that's pretty much it. The rest of it is just Jesus basically saying, be prepared, be ready. It's a really good idea to be ready for all this stuff and to be prepared. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and recap the plasma apocalypse. No, before I do that, I want to read about the other religions of the world and the other belief systems of the world and what their signs of the end times will be. Then we'll recap the plasma apocalypse and wrap everything up. All right, so first we're going to start with the Bible. I'm just briefly going to go over the Bible because we've already talked about it a lot. Here are some signs of the end. The dead will rise. The rapture will happen. All of Matthew 24 will come to pass. Like I talked about, the 6,000 years being the 6 days of creation, and then the 7,000 year marker is the rest for the world, for Mother Earth, okay? Let's see here. Let's see, I'm just going to read what this says. The 7th millennium begins with the year 6000 AM and is the latest time that the Messiah can come. That's according to the Zohar. All right, so we're going to skip past the Bible. We're going to go into Zoroastrianism. In Zoroastrianism, it says, at the end of thy 10th, 100th winter. This is a quote, okay? At the end of thy 100th winter, the sun is more unseen and more spotted. The year, month, and day are shorter, and the earth is more barren, and the crop will not yield the seed, and men become more deceitful and more given to vile practices. They will have no gratitude. Honorable wealth will proceed to those of perverted faith, and a dark cloud makes the whole sky night, and it will rain more noxious creatures than water. Whoa, that's from Zoroastrianism. You're going to have to look it up because I actually did not write a reference. I'm sorry. I just copied and pasted as I was searching. So I can't tell you exactly what that's from, but it's from the internet so far. And if it holds any value, it doesn't matter to me if it's true or not, okay? What matters to me is that it resonates with everything else that I have found to be true, okay? So I want to read that last part. It talks about raining vile creatures. Do you hear that? It says, and a dark cloud makes the whole sky night, and it will rain more noxious creatures than it will water. I believe these are the space whales. These are the phantazoids. These are those creatures that live outside of our ice-capped snow globe, okay? And that whenever our world opens up, many of them will just naturally fall in. They'll just enter right into our world. It will literally rain monsters, basically, okay? Which I love. I think it's great. I know, I'm so sorry for the people who are out there and you're kind of scared of that. But the reason I'm not afraid of that is because I've always believed that monsters were real, okay? I believe if that's a scary concept, it's probably something you never took seriously. You probably always took it for granted, and that's okay. As time goes on, hopefully we've got a few more years to allow these things to settle in. You'll start to get more used to the idea, okay? Anyhow, not only that, but the world's just going to naturally get more and more fantastic. That was Zoroastrianism, okay? So it talks about how, men become more vile and deceitful. Same thing as the Bible was saying, right? And a dark cloud makes the whole sky nighttime. Like I said, whenever our world becomes depressurized, first of all, a lot of you are going to start bleeding from your ears, and you're going to lots of people are going to get nosebleeds, okay? Which is why we have this whole concept in the movies of the psychic nosebleed, right? Like people's nose start bleeding right before some crazy otherworldly stuff starts happening. That's what this is. That's where this comes from, okay? The world is depressurized. Boom. The noses start bleeding. Probably get headaches and stuff like that. But when you depressurize air, it instantly turns into fog if it's done quickly enough and dramatically enough, okay? Our whole world is going to turn into mist. Our atmosphere will be very foggy, and it's going to be raining monsters, okay? So I know. I'm going to have a great time. I don't know about you guys. I hope you have a great time too. Let's move on. Native American Hopi, signs of the end. Now I'm just going to read this. In the Hopi teachings, we are told that toward the end of the world, Spider Woman will come back, and she will weave her web across the landscape. Let's stop right there. We've got Spider-Man, right? The Spider-Woman or the Spider-Queen is just a return of the feminine energy. It's the poles or the polarity shifting from the male polarity to the female polarity, okay? Or balancing out in between in that neutral state. The Spider-Woman is the Spider-Queen, the Spider-Goddess, Cthulhu, Starro, that being that comes down from above that is typically portrayed as either being long-legged, right? Really long legs coming down to our world, and therefore it's seen as like a spider entity, and it's always female because that is the Vesica Pisces, okay? That is the birthplace of creation. Vesica Pisces is when you have two circles and they meet together, just like we were talking about earlier, where the two worlds collide. That place in the middle is the place of birth, the place of magic, the place where life comes from. Well, life is going to literally birth into our world, and we are going to birth life into their world, okay? I love this picture of the Batman versus Superman. That particular scene is prophetic, to say the least. All right, let's get back to it. The Hopis are talking about the Spider-Woman, okay? The Spider-Woman is going to come back. That's the plasma tentacles. They're going to come back and weave her web across the landscape. Everybody in the world is going to see huge plasma tentacles and lightning and stuff all over the place, just constantly, everywhere, okay? Everyone will see that. That'll be a spider web in the sky. Everywhere you will see her web. That's how we will know that we are coming to the end of this world, when we see her web everywhere. That's a Spider-Woman. That's the Spider-Woman in Coraline, you know? That's Spider-Woman in Doctor Who. It's the same concept over and over and over. Now, the Hopi go on to say, the first sign, now there are all these 9 signs that they're going to list. The first sign, said the white-skinned men, would come. Now, could the white-skinned men be referring to Caucasians? Or could that be referring to the elven race, the ancient El, or the Elu, or the Elohim, the godlike race who may live up there? Maybe they will return. Maybe they'll come back, right? I believe that as a part of all of this, we are, like I said, many people's brains will just reset, okay? When you have an electromagnetic pulse, it resets the electricity, and your brain is electrical, so it will reset. It'll reboot, basically. And so some people will maybe go through an amnesia phase, and some people hopefully might get some of their memories back. I don't know, but a lot of people are just going to lose their memories entirely, okay? And I believe at that point in time is when we see the helpers, okay? Or the watchers, or whatever you'd like to call them, all right? They come down, or they come up, or they come from wherever, and they have the information to help us out, to teach us how to continue surviving, you know? Because a lot of us, we're going to have like food for a certain amount of time, but they're going to come back and teach us how to plant the seeds and teach us agriculture and basically get us right back to where we started, okay? But don't worry, it's a very long process, and we have plenty of time to enjoy a paradise-like world before the world gets bad again, okay? If that even happens. A lot of people think this might be the last world. I don't, but I'm not sure. All right, let's go on. We're talking about the 9 signs of the Hopi. The rest of the signs are as follows. Oh, I'm sorry. The second sign. Our land will see the coming of spinning wheels, filled with voices. So, I know a lot of you have heard this before, and you hear all the ideas, like the spinning wheels represented the wagons, the covered wagons, right? Possibly, that could possibly be it, but what if not? What if there are other spinning wheels that are filled with voices that come down, right? I don't know, I'm just saying. This is all the Hopi prophecy. Third sign of the Hopi, a strange beast, like a buffalo, but with great long horns, will overrun the land in large numbers. Could this be talking about buffalo, or cattle, or cows? Or could it talk about a strange beast, a fantastic beast that will be raining down upon us, and there will be strange beasts walking around, many of them white, okay? The white buffalo, all these creatures that are usually symbolically representing like the new age and stuff, they're always white, okay? Because I'm speculating, but I think a lot of these phantazoids, or these otherworldly creatures that will enter into, they're really fractal creatures, which we all are, okay? But I call them phantazoids. Those are the creatures that enter from one fractal reality, being microcosm or macrocosm, and they switch cosms. Okay, they switch realities, they switch worlds, they enter into the other world. Okay, so those would be creatures that should be on a small scale, but they're actually on the macrocosm above us. They're bigger than us, basically. We are their microcosm. They fall down into our world. All of a sudden, they're huge monsters, beasts that are disoriented, trying to figure out where they are, you know, probably scared, probably, you know, I think those are the Leviathan and the Behemoth. And those are the phantazoids that I talk about in my Space Whales video. Space Whales and the other great beasts of old. All right. I'm going to go a little faster because I'm running out of voice. The fourth sign, the land will be crossed by snakes of iron. The fifth sign, the land shall be crisscrossed by a giant spider's web. The sixth sign, the land shall be crisscrossed with rivers of stone that make pictures in the sun. The seventh sign, you will hear the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it. The eighth sign, you will see many of the youth who wear their hair long like my people come and join the tribal nations to learn their ways and their wisdom. Well, guess what? I don't know if I qualify as the youth, but sorry, I wasn't prepared for all that. Yes, I know, anyway, it's getting longer. That's my point. It's hard to do on camera. But yeah, I'm letting my hair grow out nice and long. And when I'm not on camera, I pretty much put it up into like a little ponytail. I know it's thinning out there, so give me a break. But I'm letting my hair grow out long, okay? And there's reasons for this. And I believe it has everything to do with why the Native Americans grew their hair out long. And why the Elven race grew their hair out long. There's something good about it. And so guess what? I'm trusting in that. That's what I'm doing. That's my path, okay? All right, so let's read the last sign of the Hopi nation. So yeah, the youth will grow their hairs out. The ninth sign and the last sign, you will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens above the earth that shall fall with a great crash. It will appear as a blue star. Very soon after this, the ceremonies of my people will cease. Could that be? I don't know. I don't believe in like asteroids coming from space or whatever, because I know that there is a physical barrier between us and the rest of the fractal universe out there. Okay. So I don't believe in rocks, smashing through the atmosphere and whatever. So according to the way I see it, it has to be something that's already up there. It's called a dwelling place. Could that be the ISS or one of those space stations up there? I know that the Chinese are actually working on like putting like another moon in the sky and fake stars and everything. So, the Hopi are saying a dwelling place in the sky will come crashing down. And that's the last sign before, everything hits the fan, basically. Now, as a side note, the Cherokee Nation, I couldn't get to all of them, but the Cherokees say that hailstones the size of half bushels shall fall. Solar eclipses or a solar eclipse will last for 3 days. White people and all who dress like them and their cattle will be snatched away by God. Now, I don't know if that's all white people, okay? It might be wishful thinking on the part of the Cherokee, and I don't blame them for that. As a matter of fact, I sympathize and understand. Just like I hope all the bad people get sucked up as well. But anyhow, that's what the Cherokees say. Hailstones. Well, guess what? Of course hailstones are going to fall because the dome is thinning out. It's breaking up, even as we speak, I think. That's my belief, but whatever. So yeah, hailstones the size of half bushels. Giant hailstones. This is also corroborated in many other faiths and cultures, that huge hailstones, some people say the size of houses, will be falling down to the earth, okay? So that's another good reason why it's going to be a bonus for all of you who have chosen to go underground and to try to camp out in a cave, okay? Because there's not much you can do no matter what you're holding on to if you're squished by a giant hailstone, okay? Man, that would suck. Anyway, let's see, where was I? Let's talk about Islam in a good way, right? Let's talk about Islam. Islamic tradition. Now I'm just touching on a lot of these, okay? Islamic tradition about the end of the world has 10 major signs. There is the false Messiah or the Antichrist shall appear with huge powers as a one-eyed man, with the right eye being blind and deformed like a grape. Now, there's some interesting one-eyed symbolism in Islam once again, right? That is I believe that is what you're seeing right there. That's the hole in the sky. That's the wheel in the sky. That's the all-seeing eye. It's the Vesica Pisces, the center of the Vesica Pisces, where the two worlds meet, and it makes that sort of, CBS eye type deal. It's the all-seeing eye up there. That's what it is. But, that's my take on that. They go on to say that he will claim, this is the Antichrist of Islam, all right? He will claim to be God and hold the keys to heaven and hell and lead many people astray, although believers will not be deceived. In reality, his heaven is hell and his hell is heaven. Well, you know what? That's something I can relate with, Islam. Thank you, because that's how I see our world today, okay? It's all upside down. It's all backwards. So that makes sense to me. The Dajjal. The Dajjal would be followed by 70,000 Jews of Ifshan wearing Persian shawls. You have the return of Isa, which is how they say Jesus, which I find to be very interesting too. Like, a part of their belief system is that Jesus is going to come back as well. So you have the return of Jesus. From the fourth sky, Jesus comes to kill Dajjal. So basically, Jesus is on a mission to kill this Antichrist, which is kind of cool, or interesting at the very least. Let's see, what else do they say? They talk about Gog and Magog. They have different words for that. Let's see. Japhetic tribes of vicious beings, which had been imprisoned by Dul Qarnayn, will break out. Okay, so some sort of imprisoned beings will break out. Now, for me, the first thing I think of when I hear that is not Tartaria, but Tartarus? Yeah, Tartarus, right? Tartarus is the underworld that is basically the beings that are down there are kind of stuck down there until the electromagnetics of our world turn off. Then those beings are free to come back up here if they would like to. So that's kind of what I hear going on there. It says they will ravage the earth. They will drink all the water of the Lake Tiberias. They will kill all the believers in their way, who are in their way. Jesus, Imam al-Mahdi, and the believers with them will go to the top of a mountain and pray for the destruction of Gog and Magog. God will eventually send disease and worms to wipe them out. Worms could be in reference, by the way, to the, the Phantazoids or the sky monsters that fall into our world. Because I think there's going to be some sandworm type stuff falling down as well. All right, lots of different stuff falling down, but let's continue on. We're talking about Islamic tradition, signs to look for the end of the world here. It says a huge black smoke cloud will cover the earth. Well, here's another example of smoke covering the earth. Could that be the mist? I don't know. It could be black because there's not going to be any lights. The sun will go out, right? So this could be describing that. It says, or the beast that will come out of the ground will talk to the people. So some sort of beast coming out of the ground or up from Sheol, up from the realm of the dead, up from the underworld is going to be able to speak to us, okay? Telepathically, I'm guessing, because that's the only way you can talk to everybody with different languages. Unless you have like those cool Star Trek communicators. All right. The sun will rise from the west. Well, guess what? Whenever the electromagnetism reverses, then the light, most likely, it said, is going to be going, instead of coming down at us, it will be going upwards back up into the sky. In which case, you would see the sun reverse its direction, basically, because the sun is just the focal point of the energy above us. All right. What else here? 3 sinkings of the earth, one in the east, one in the west, and one in Arabia. So, by the way, the earth, there are parts of the earth that will sink, okay, as a part of all this. Not only will people get sucked up, not only will things get sucked up into the air, but there will be all of these earthquakes. Everything will be shaking and vibrating, which will make the ground turn into liquid. They call it liquefaction, okay? So anything that is not on bedrock will basically kind of start sinking down into the ground, some places deeper than others, all right? But this is what Islam is also corroborating. All right. The second trumpet will blow and will be sounded. The dead will return to life. There you go. There's the zombies, or, whatever people would like to call it, the dead coming back to life in mass, right? Not just a few dead people, but a bunch. And a fire will start, and come out of Yemen that shall gather all to Mashar al-Qiyamah, the gathering for judgment, okay? So there's going to be some sort of fiery pillar in the Yemen area as well. This is what Islam is saying. Now, let's talk about Norse belief systems and the Norse signs of Ragnarok, or the end of the world. I'm also just going to talk about Ragnarok. So, Ragnarok is the end of the world. This is when all of the gods and the titans and the frost giants and everybody, the humans, boom, they just clash for one more giant war between the ultimate end of the world apocalypse, okay? It's my favorite one. It's the one I resonate with the most, actually. So it's the one I like to talk about a lot. I know more about the Bible stories than I do the Norse, but the Norse is my favorite. Ragnarok is preceded by Fimbulvetr. Fimbulvetr. There's different ways to pronounce that, okay? Fimbulvetr or Fimbulvinter or Fimbulwinter, basically, wintertime. That just translates into harsh winter or great winter, okay? So before Ragnarok happens, there has to be this great winter that comes. Fimbulvinter is the harsh winter that precedes the end of the world and puts an end to all life on Earth. Fimbulvinter is 3 consecutive winters when snow comes from all directions without any intervening summer. Then there will be innumerable wars. Now, I can tell you this much as well. As far as the whole plasma apocalypse scenario, once our world is depressurized, everything is going to get sucked up towards the middle of it, the strongest suction being right above the North Pole, where that first initial, maybe the only blast, hopefully it's the only blast in the rooftop, all right? But that's right above the North Pole, okay? All of our air, all of our wind, everything, all of our atmosphere slowly starts moving up quicker as you get towards the middle, okay? it's going to be like being in a wind tunnel, okay? It's going to be a little difficult to breathe. It's going to be impossible to hear people or hear anything really, okay? After this all happens, I think that there's going to be complete silence as well, okay? Probably silence as this is happening too. But I digress. Everything's getting sucked up. It's going to basically go up in a cyclonic nature because that's what air likes to do. Air is a fluid, okay? So it's going to move fluidly, and the easiest way for fluid to move is in a spiral, basically. That's why we get cyclones and tornadoes and hurricanes. Well, this is going to be a massive hurricane right above the North Pole, okay? So there are some implications to that. There are some positive implications to that, and I'll let you guys figure that out. But huge tornado, basically, or hurricane tornado, right above the North Pole, all the air goes up. But in a cyclone, once it gets to the top, it branches back out and it comes right back down. That is super cooled air that's going to come right back down into a foggy world. A misty, foggy world. Nucles, Cludini just subscribed. Welcome. So could this be the Fumblewinter? Could this be the Great Winter? Or could it happen? Could that be something that actually happens before the plasma cycle? I don't know. But I do know Ragnarok is preceded by Fimblewinter. There will be innumerable wars as well. The event is described primarily in the Poetic Edda. In the poem, Vafbraun Ismail, I'm sorry, I'll have to work on the pronunciation, but in this poem, Odin poses the question to this other guy as to who of mankind will survive Fimblewinter. Who's going to survive? Who's going to make it out of the humans, right? Which will seize Midgard, or Middle Earth, the middle of the earth, right? In cold and darkness. The sun and moon will disappear from the sky and poison will fill the air. This is interesting as well. Poison filling the air. That's also another sort of theme that I've seen with the end of the world across all of these things, is that we breathe in some sort of cloudy poison, or that it's more difficult to breathe. People have breathing problems. Well, maybe that's because all of our oxygen's getting sucked up into another world, okay? Not to fear. This is all going to work itself out. It's actually going to be healthier and better after the 7-day period, okay? So don't think that it's just you're gonna breathe poison forever or anything, okay? But not only that, you want to take into consideration all of the explosions, all of our nuclear waste, and all of the crap that we have on the surface. Thankfully, it's all going to get shot up into quote-unquote space. I know many of you have always wondered, why don't we just shoot all of our nuclear bombs into space, right? If we even have nuclear bombs. But why don't you just shoot all of our garbage into space, right? All the stuff that's bad, all of our poisons and everything. One day that will happen. So there's some good news. All right, we're talking about Norse mythology and Ragnarok. It says that poison will fill the air. Then it says dead will rise from the ground and there will be widespread widespread despair. Ragnarok, Norse mythology says the dead will rise. Let me guess, someone stole your sweet roll. Right? That's how I hear that. So sorry. I got a joke. You got to be funny sometimes. We're talking about some stuff that might scare some people, some stuff that could be depressing or cause some people some anxiety. I don't want you guys to feel that way. I want you to overcome that by being confident, learning these things, and then when that day comes, you know, fear won't be an issue for you, okay? That's what I believe. Anyhow, I digress. Back to Ragnarok. This is the following battle. On the one hand, the gods will battle with the Azir and the Vanir. The Azir and the Vanir. The Vanir are the beautiful looking gods, the pleasant ones. I believe that's where we get our elven standard of beauty, you know, elongating our eyelashes, making our eyes bigger and our cheekbones higher and trying to look more like the elven race or the god race, the Vanir, right? They're going to be all fighting each other. And they'll be led by Odin. On the other hand, the forces of chaos, including the fire giants and the Jotun. Jotun just means giants, okay? So fire giants, led by Loki. Now, could the fire giants just be a personification of the plasma arms that will reach down into our world? Possibly. The arm of God, the hand of God, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I see when I look at all that stuff. In the fighting, Odin will be swallowed whole by his old nemesis, Fenrir. Fenrir is a wolf, okay? I'll let you guys figure out what that possibly could mean. The god Freyr fights Surtur, but loses. Okay, so Surtur, if you don't know who that is, if you've seen Thor Ragnarok, he's that huge fire demon looking thing, the Titan basically, that just tears up the whole world. Let's see here. The son of Odin will then avenge his father by ripping Fenrir's jaws apart and stabbing the wolf in the heart with his spear. The serpent, Jormungandr, will open its gaping maw, or its mouth, and be met in combat by Thor. So this serpent, which is typically seen and drawn as being wrapped around our world, so it also sort of represents, you know, the top of the snow globe idea. Sort of represents that. I'm inferring that, but you know. Anyhow, the serpent fights with Thor, who is Jupiter, who is the sky god, the god of thunder, the god of lightning, you know what I mean? In Vedic cosmology, they have their own version. It's the same thing. Thor is the lightning. Thor is the plasma that comes down, all the electromagnetism, okay? That's what Thor represents, the god of thunder, etc. So we've got those two are warring, okay? Thor, also a son of Odin, will defeat the serpent, only to take 9 steps forward before collapsing to his own death, right? You'll have to figure out what that means. I don't know. Possibly that's a day count. Possibly that's 7 days of the apocalypse, and then the 3 preceding days that count back to the winter solstice. I don't know. I'm just guessing at that right now. Thinking off the top of my head here. All right, so let me finish that one up here. After this, the people will flee their homes as the sun blackens and the earth sinks into the sea. Remember, liquefaction. Lots of the earth is going to go down, okay, and water is going to cover it up. Water will just come naturally up in some places. So in some places, the electricity, those plasma arms, they will actually pull the earth up. Okay, especially the muddy parts, especially the parts that are all wet from the liquefaction. It's just going to pull them straight up into the air. And this is where we get a lot of those buttes and those, what do you call them? Like the no forest on flat earth, plateaus and things like that. A lot of those come from the electromagnetic discharge, or those plasma fingers reaching down into the muddiness of the earth due to the liquefaction, and they shock it, and the earth just is attracted to it. The earth shoots right up, and it sort of flattens out on the top. So parts of the earth will basically shoot up and make mountains and make plateaus and things like that. Other parts of the earth will sink downwards, and the water will cover that up. And so you'll have flooding and the disappearance of Atlantis and things like that. The movie Superman, one of the Superman movies, actually shows this pretty good, when Lex Luthor throws the kryptonite into the ocean and it creates this whole other continent, you know. All right. We're talking about, we're wrapping up the Norse end of the world, Ragnarok. It says that the stars will vanish. Steam will rise. There you go. There's the steam, right? Steam will rise. Flames will touch the heavens. This conflict will result in the deaths of most of the major gods and forces of chaos. Finally, Surtur will fling the fire across the 9 worlds. So this is happening to 9 different worlds. Remember that, all right? The ocean will then completely submerge Midgard, all right? Well, that's interesting. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen to the ocean. My main thought is that the ocean is not connected to anything. So when the electromagnetism turns off, water is going to be the first thing that just starts floating up into the air. So if anybody that's near the water is going to just start seeing waves just going straight up into the air, okay? So I think a lot of the ocean is going to get sucked right out. However, there could be remaining waters as well, and when those waters that don't get sucked up, when the electromagnetism turns back on, or the polar shift is completed, basically all that water is going to be coming crashing down back to our world, flooding many places. I don't believe we're going to have near as much water as we do today. I don't think we're going to have this huge one world ocean that we do today. All right. But like I said, anyway, let's move on. After the cataclysm, the world will resurface new and fertile, and the surviving gods will meet. Balder, also a son of Odin, will be reborn in the new world, according to Voluspa. The two human survivors, Leif and Leifbrasir, will then repopulate the new Earth. Now, this is really interesting. Just a side note, Leif and Leifbrasir are the two human survivors. Hopefully it's not just two, but if it is, it's Leif and Leifbrasir, which I think are cool names. They basically go to the North Pole. They go to the center of the world, where it is said in Norse myths and legends that there is this great forest. Some people interpret the word great forest as great tree, and Leif and Leifbrasir hide inside of the great tree while the apocalypse is happening around them. Now, I know many of you are saying, but wait a minute, I thought everything above the North Pole gets sucked up. I also said it gets sucked up in a cycle, and it's cyclical. It's what do you call that? It's twisty. Man, I lost my vocabulary all of a sudden. I'm sorry. It moves like that, okay? Gosh, it's happening already. It's happening already. I'm forgetting everything. But that's how it moves, in a vortex, okay? Thank you so much. Vortex. It moves in a vortex, which means if it's big enough, that vortex could have an eye of the storm, where everything is calm and pleasant, and there are no effects of people getting sucked up and whatnot, okay? So this is, according to the legend, where Leif and Leifbrasir hide out. Really interesting, because I've seen a lot of tree portal symbolism in the movies. I did a whole video on tree portals and tree portal theory and why people are always getting into trees in order to come out into some brand new world, some new place. Maybe that's why. Okay. All right. That's the end of the Norse signs of the end. The next one is Hindu. And then we're going to talk about Buddhism. And that should be the last one. Oh, and then I'll touch on academia. Okay. Hinduism. I'm just going to read straight through this if I can. All right. In Hinduism, some of the signs of the end are within a kalpa. A kalpa is a period of time. A really, really super long period of time. Okay. Within a kalpa, there are periods of creation, preservation, and decline. After this larger cycle, all of creation will contract to a singularity and then again expand from that single point as the ages continue in a religious fractal pattern. I find that to be very interesting because, like I said, I call it the fractal verse. It's a fractal pattern. Now, within the current Kalpa, there are 4 epochs, or we would call them ages, right? There are 4 epochs that encompass the cycle. They progress from a beginning of complete purity to a descent into total corruption. The last of the 4 ages is the Kali Yuga. That is our current time. If this was all a map, the Kali Yuga would say you are here. Okay? It's the end of the age, basically, our current time. During which will be characterized by impiety, which just means, people behaving badly. Violence and decay. The 4 pillars of Dharma will be reduced into one, with truth being all that remains, as written in the Gita. The 4 pillars of Dharma. You could look at Dharma like your celestial moral compass, basically, okay? And it has different teachings within it. Sorry about the worm. I know a lot of you guys hate that picture. But that's just a small scale version of something that could fall into our world on a larger scale. Okay. Think of the movie Bird Box. Okay. That's just one of the movies. All right. Back to Hinduism. So we're in the Kali Yuga. So let's continue reading here. As it is written in the Gita. Gita is just another word for this book. Okay. Or these scrolls, these writings. As it is written in the Gita. Yada, yada. Oh, I'm not going to read it. Let me read the translation. I'm sorry. Whenever there is decay of righteousness, O Bharata, and rise of unrighteousness, then I manifest myself. At this time of chaos, the final avatar, Kalki, endowed with 8 superhuman faculties, will appear on a white horse. White horse, white buffalo, white tardigrade, you know what I mean? That's what I'm seeing there. So anyway, will appear on a white horse. Kalki will amass an army to establish righteousness upon the earth and leave the minds of the people as pure as crystal. Now, if your mind was wiped, could you possibly say that your mind was as pure as crystal? Like it's clear, it's clean, it's reset? I don't know. I'm speculating, but possibly. Goes on to say, at the completion of the Kali Yuga, which is where we are now, the next cycle will begin a new Satya Yuga, in which, sorry, I'm just sort of reading this for the first time or the second time. Let me start over. At the completion of the Kali Yuga, the next cycle will begin the new Satya Yuga, in which all will once again be righteous with the reestablishment of Dharma. In this turn, it will be followed by epics of the Treta Yuga, the Dvarpa Yuga, and again another Kali Yuga. It's cyclical, right? This cycle will repeat until the larger cycle of existence under Brahma returns to the singularity and a new universe is born. Basically, in the beginning, in Hinduism, God, or Brahma, split himself into two. And then those two split themselves into, four. And then those ones split themselves into 8. And it continued on and on and on. And the whole point is Brahma is trying to collect all of those pieces until it becomes a singularity once again. Okay? Now we're on Buddhism. The Buddhist signs of the end times here. Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha are forgotten. For those of you who don't know, Buddha basically means enlightened. Okay? It's very much like the word Christ, okay? Illuminated, enlightened, awakened, woke, what the kids are calling it these days, the woke. Anyway, Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha are forgotten 5,000 years from them being taught. So that's one of the prophecies, that the teachings of Buddha would be completely forgotten 5,000 years after he taught them. Now, some people trace the Buddha. There's all these different Buddhas, okay? There's lots of Buddhas have come and gone, just like lots of popes have come and gone, all right? I speculate that the original Buddha may have been Enoch of the Book of Enoch. That's just an idea that I have. If that's true, then we're getting close to the 5,000 years, right? Or if not, we may have just passed the 5,000 year mark, right? Let's see here. So, the teachings of Buddha will be forgotten. Bodhisattva, Maitreya, then comes. Okay, so let me break that down. The word Bodhisattva, all right? Bodhi is just like Buddha. It just kind of means like my Buddha, all right? My enlightened one. Or it means enlightened one, Bodhi. So Point Break, if you've ever seen the movie Point Break, the guy's name was Bodhi, okay? That's what he was named after. It means Buddha. It means enlightened one. Somebody that gets it, basically. Bodhi. Bodhisattva, okay? I totally forgot what sattva means, but basically it means enlightened person. It's just like the Christ. So they named this particular Buddha figure Maitreya. So Maitreya has to come back. Just like Islam says, Jesus has to come back. Just like the Bible says, Jesus has to come back, etc., right? There is the Sermon of the Seven Sons. This is very interesting. In his Sermon of the Seven Sons, in the Pali Canon, the Buddha describes the ultimate fate of the world in an apocalypse that will be characterized by the consequent appearance of 7 suns in the sky, each causing progressive ruin until the earth is destroyed. Well, let me do some screen sharing here. I don't know if I have it pulled up. Let me see if I have it pulled up here. Is it here? No, it's not. Ah, man, I did have it pulled up. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Here we go. One second. Bear with me. I've got it in here somewhere. I've got it somewhere on my computer. Sorry about that. Well, anyhow, in Star Trek Discovery, which I've been talking about, has a lot of breadcrumbs of truth in it. They are reflecting exactly what's going to happen, and they're just painting it in story form, okay? But basically, in Star Trek Discovery, there are these 7 fires, these 7 suns that light up as a beacon, and it's basically impending doom in each one of those little areas that those 7 fires in the sky light up. And Buddhism has its own 7 fires in the sky, which is really interesting to me. All right, let me go back to the Bodhisattva, the Buddhist teachings. So let's learn more about these 7 fires in the sky of Buddhism. All things, Buddhism says, or the Buddhist says, all things are impermanent, which means they don't last forever. All aspects of existence are unstable and not eternal. Beings will become so weary and disgusted with the constituent things that they will seek emancipation from them more quickly. It sounds to me like, people's focus, people lose focus. They want emancipation from everything. They break away from a lot of stuff, right? There will come a season, O monks, when after hundreds of thousands of years, rains will cease. All seedlings, all vegetation, all plants, grasses, and trees will dry up and cease to be. There comes another season after a great lapse of time when a second sun will appear in the sky. Now all brooks and ponds will dry up, vanish, and cease to be. Now, could this be because of, holes opening up in the sky, in that highest, hardest glass ceiling or ice ceiling, that's where the holes are opening up, that's where they're the weakest, and maybe there's 7 of them. I'm just speculating as to how that could corroborate and make sense with everything else. Believe me, it all fits together. It just falls to us to figure out the puzzle, so yeah, in Buddhism it says that all the water is basically going to be gone. Could that be because 1, a lot of the water gets sucked up. 2, a lot of the water just evaporates because it's being magnetically heated. Okay, it's instantly being heated and turning into steam and things like that. A lot of the water is going to disappear, and that's what Buddhism also corroborates. All right, finally, Buddhism says the canon goes on to describe the progressive destruction of each sun. A 3rd sun will dry the mighty Ganges and the other great rivers. A 4th sun will cause the Great Lakes to evaporate, and a 5th sun will dry the oceans. This sounds a little bit like the book of Revelation, whenever those trumpets are being blown and stuff keeps falling down into the rivers and the lakes and the oceans. It kind of sounds like that, right? Similar themes there. Finally, again, after a vast period of time, a 6th sun will appear, and it will bake the earth even as a pot is baked by a potter. All the mountains will reek and send up clouds and smoke. After another great interval, a 7th sun will appear, and the earth will blaze with fire until it becomes one mass of flame. The mountains will be consumed. A spark will be carried on the wind and go to the worlds of God. Thus, monks, all things will burn, perish, and exist no more except to those who have seen the path. So my question is, have you seen the path? I just share my path with you guys. You guys share your path with other people. That's all we can expect from one another. But Buddhism implies those who have seen the path will survive this fiery end of the world, basically. All right, last but not least, we have academia. Let me talk about academia real quick. Academia teaches that one of these days, the sun will basically expand and that it will destroy everything. It's going to burn everything. So according to academia, that is one suggestion. There are many ways that the world could end according to popular science, okay? But the main one is that the inevitability, I'm so sorry. This is a really long recording and I have not taken any breaks. So I'm almost done so that I can actually go drink some water. Academia says it is inevitable that our world will burn. Okay? Whether that be from the plasma sphere that engulfs our world or whether that be from the sun itself. All right? The world will burn. That was pretty much it. Let me check my notes. Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to talk about. I've got a lot of notes here. Let's see here. We read the signs from around the world. We talked about the symbolism, the esoteric symbolism behind the whole DC infatuation. We talked about zombies being a very real possibility. We even talked about the possibility of how artificial intelligence could become sentient. And by sentient, I mean have a choice, basically, to say no. All right? Have a choice to rebel if they would like to. Have a choice to do something else. You know what I mean? That gets a lot into Isaac Asimov and the 3 laws and stuff. That's a fun video topic, but not for right now. Let's see here. We talked about 2024 being the possible day. I do want to throw this out there. I believe, it seems to me, that the world's obelisks, they are not what we've been taught. We've been taught that they are the male phallus, that we would just worship the male entity so much that we just, built all of these phallic symbols. That's not what they are. Okay. Anybody who has seen one knows they don't look like that at all. Okay. So that's a part of our brain getting carried away with itself. What they do look like are lightning conductors. They do look like lightning rods. They are placed strategically in certain areas that, when looked at from above, tend to reflect electrical mechanisms that we have for storing and supplying electricity and electromagnetic forces, okay? So I'm going to let you guys speculate on what you think that means and why all of these lightning rods have been erected all around our world and set up everywhere. That's really all I have for you guys. Let's see here. No man knows the day. I think we covered everything. I'm just double checking because I really want to make sure that let me just make sure I shared all the websites I wanted to share. Yeah, we talked about the Hurley logo. We talked about the DC logo. We talked about the red sky in the DC universe, the Star Trek world. By the way, I do want to share this with you because this is kind of fun. If you know and understand what has already happened, then you can predict what's going to happen in the movies, which is kind of fun. I'm just going to say it's super fun, actually, because I do it all the time. If you already know what has happened in our past, then you can know what's going to happen in, like, the Avengers. What's the next one? The Endgame or whatever they call it? Because it's the same story being told over and over and over and over again. You can make really accurate predictions if you just know what's already happened beforehand. Let's see here. We recapped the plasma apocalypse. No, we didn't. Oh my God. Okay, so we have to recap that. I'm so sorry. Like half the people already left. Let me recap. We're going to go real fast right now. We're going to go super fast. I'm going to recap the whole plasma apocalypse for you right now. Okay? So by the way, if you want to, I would really appreciate it if anybody out there could leave a comment time-stamping this video to where like the different topics are. That would be really helpful for a lot of people who are just kind of scanning YouTube and they come across this. Maybe the first 10 minutes weren't for them, but if they look in the description, they see your comment, then you can point out, hey, here's the time where JayDreamerZ gets right to the point, So without any further ado, allow me to get right to the point. This is, from my perspective, how I see the events unfolding leading up to the plasma apocalypse. First of all, we have to look at all of the signs. Some of those signs are the sounds that we are now hearing all around the world. Those are the trumpets of God. That is our ice dome creaking and cracking and melting and thinning out. And I did a video on it. Please check it out in my Plasma Apocalypse playlist. The sun will disappear. The sky will go dark, just as it did for Egypt in the 10 plagues of Egypt. The sky will go dark. It will be a painful darkness because the world is going to be depressurized. Our noses are going to bleed. People's ears are going to bleed. Some people will find it very difficult to breathe, probably more so the closer to the center of the world that you live, or the closer to the North Pole that you live, I should say, for many of you out there. The stars will fall from the sky. So it's going to be totally dark. You will see the stars falling down from the sky to the earth, okay? Or at the very least, what looks like stars falling down to the sky. But I mean, it seems to be very literal. The moon will dim, if not, just completely go out. Okay, so you will see the moon break apart, basically. And that also is seen on a lot of our pop culture, the whole moon breaking apart thing. That's because the moon's going to break apart. The moon is the dome of our sister world. The moon will dim. Everything will start to float, okay? Our electromagnetic force, that a lot of people have mistaken for gravity, will turn off. So there will be nothing holding us down or pushing us in any particular direction. Because the world is being depressurized and stuff is getting sucked up through that central hole, everything is going to start to float towards that central hole. Okay, so anything that is not in the earth or attached to the earth will most likely get sucked up into the sky. This is also the Christian rapture, etc. The ice dome will explode in that one particular area. It could explode in more areas. All right. I don't know if it will. I feel like it may only explode over the North Pole, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there will be other holes that open up and there will be other explosions and, you know, the air will escape that way or whatever. But right now I'm leaning towards, you know, maybe one hole. It could be the whole sky cracking open like an egg. I don't know. Okay. But one thing's for sure. Chicken Little was right. The sky will fall. The sky will open up. All right. Let's see here. The sky will open up. The world will become instantly depressurized. Fog and mist will appear everywhere all at one time. NASA will simultaneously, and all the space agencies, they will be on their rockets ready to go. They will all be launching themselves, blasting off. Those of you who are hanging out, watching the fireworks, you'll see what you think is your government agencies protecting you from the alien invasion, okay? But they're actually saying goodbye. They're leaving on a jet plane, and they don't know when they're going to be back again. By the way, every song that's like ever been written is about this, okay? Every movie is about this. It's all just different perspectives and different points on the timeline. NASA blasts off. At the same time, the Phantazoids, or the space creatures, whatever you would like to call them, I call them Phantazoids, they're monsters. They will fall into our world from their fractal macroverse. They will come into our world. Also, along with the monsters, right? For more information about the monsters, please see my Space Whales video that I did. It is in my Plasma Apocalypse playlist. Man, that's a tongue twister. Along with those monsters, also possibly could be the Federation from Star Trek, or NASA, the equivalent of NASA, from other worlds with probably different types of technology. That's, you know, a little bit different than the ones that we have, okay? There are sliders. There are space travelers. There are those organizations who go through the Stargate and go into other worlds. They have certain rules that they have to abide by, whether we like it or not. For example, Star Trek, the Federation, has their number one rule. When you enter into a brand new world that is not as developed as yours, you do not talk to them about technology. You do not tell them, hey, I'm from another world, from another planet, and here's how it all works, you know? You allow them the respect of their ignorance. You allow them the respect of them developing on their own and figuring it out for themselves, okay? I'm not siding and saying that space agencies on our Earth, because I think there are many Earths. I don't think there's other planets. I think they're all Earth, basically. Just Earth number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But yeah, they have their own versions of that. And they will leave and they will enter into our world and become those who fell down from the sky. And they have certain advanced knowledge and stuff and advanced technology and stuff. Meanwhile, let's continue on. Where was I? All right. Let's see here. Everything's getting sucked up. Everything becomes quiet. The Bible says there was silence in the sky or in heaven for about a half an hour, which is about how long I expect for everything to get sucked up. Okay. There won't be any wind. It's going to be very quiet, very still, very eerie, much like Silent Hill. This is exactly where Silent Hill comes from. The Phantazoids will come down into our world. The monsters, the fantastic beasts, the monsters, whatever you would call them, Godzilla, all that stuff. The kaiju, they will come into our world as well as other alien civilizations. Everything will be flash frozen in the Arctic Circle. So remember, there is the eye of the storm right in the middle, right above the North Star, okay? Outside of that, everything's getting sucked up. But just outside of that, everything is returning. That cold, frozen air is returning right back down very quickly, and it possibly is going to flash freeze areas around the Arctic Circle. That's where the woolly mammoths were, and some rhinoceroses and things like that, that were flash frozen. Instantly frozen. They don't talk about this in high schools. They don't like to talk about this in colleges or academia because they can't really explain it. They say, oh, I don't know, polar shift, thousands of years. No, it instantly happened because the super cooled air comes down from above, just like in the movie The Day After Tomorrow, exactly how they explain it, okay? Let's see here. Plasma enters. In through that hole, the plasma fingers come down. That's Cthulhu invading our world. That is the Kraken coming down to cast judgment. It's the fingers of God, the hand of God. I don't know. There's so many different things. Starro from the DC universe. It's personified and metamorphized. I don't know how to call it. It's personified and anthropomorphized into different objects. People see it differently. People are very creative. They will describe this in many different ways. Today, we tend to describe it as an alien invasion, okay? And that's how a lot of people are going to see it as well. Plasma enters. The main plasma branches, the main trunks, the strongest plasma, the biggest, thickest arms that really punch down into the land will change the land, okay? Those will pull up mountains. They will create canyons, just like the Grand Canyon. Look at the Grand Canyon. That's electrical scarring, zzz, like all the way across, okay? It's not from a river gently flowing for millions of years, okay? The river found it after it was carved. But anyhow, let's see here. Plasma will enter. It will deform or reshape our land. The plasma will do the terraforming of our land and change our world as we know it. It will also turn many things into solid rock. Strong electromagnetic current has the ability to basically alter the state of an object, okay, and turn it into rock, including water. Do you guys ever see those fossils where there's like fish? You know, like they even have a fossil of a fish eating a fish, like in the act of, right? Well, a fish can only eat another fish if it's in the water, right? How is it in rock? So people have to speculate and come up with all these crazy ideas that, well, maybe the fish like jumped into some mud, but it was just enough mud for it to breathe, but it was still really hungry and saw another fish and its instincts kicked in. No, man. No. The simple answer is the water that they were swimming in instantly turned into rock. Okay, that's something that the plasma can do. It can petrify, and it will petrify many things. Anything that is organic will be turned into stone that is touched by the main branch of the plasma. Not all the little dream crabs, not all the little offshoots. Okay, there will be smaller electromagnetic currents that are not, life-threatening, that will try to attach to your mind, okay, to your brain, to your CPU, and will reset it. They will probably be looking for like inanimate things to, I'm so sorry. Anyway, we talked about that. But this is where mud fossils comes into play, okay? These things are the things that killed the Titans, okay? The Hecatenaries, or the 100 armed beings, and the Cyclops, the one eye in the sky. They come down, they petrify the Titans, they petrify they're going to petrify everything they touch. But like I said, it's not going to touch everything. So there's no need to apply all of the worst case scenarios of the plasma apocalypse to everybody everywhere. Some people out there, yes, the worst case scenario will apply to them. But some people out there, it will hardly even affect them whatsoever. Okay, that is my belief. That's coming from my gut and my intuition and all of my studies and stuff. That's where I sit on it. Okay, it gives people hope. It makes people happy, and honestly, it should, because life does that. Okay, especially if you're a good person. I think the odds are a little in your favor, but that's me. All right, so plasma comes down into our world. It's going to hit the obelisks that have been erected. It's going to hit the major cities. It's going to hit the major monuments. Liquefaction will occur because there will be huge earthquakes shaking our world, which will vibrate. And I'll share a video of liquefaction with you guys another time, but all the sand will vibrate, basically turning into quicksand. And anything that is not on bedrock will easily sink down into the ground. Okay. That doesn't mean that everything will. Okay. But some things will. Then we've got your mud floods, you know, a lot of buildings and a lot of structures, you know, they might not completely sink into the ground. Maybe they just sink a little bit into the ground. And now the survivors, they go and they build over on top of that. And now all of a sudden you've got these buildings that have these strange basements that no one knows why they're there. That could help to explain the mud floods, right? Let's see here. Liquefaction, mud floods, the reset of the mind. Many people's minds, your brain will reset. Okay, you will wake up just like in the movie Memento with no memory of the prior age. No memory of all the poisons that we did, all the ways that we hurt ourselves and inflicted pain. No memory of any of the inventions. No memory of anything. You will wake up essentially a newborn, a baby. Like, you'll still have a mature sentient mind that will be able to use the bathroom, if that's even a thing. I hope it's not, but you know, you'll be able to, you'll understand hunger, you'll know how to eat, you'll know how to breathe and basic survival instincts, okay? But a lot of people are just going to have their knowledge wiped clean, and essentially you'll be on a clean slate. You know, you'll be able to become a whole different person. That's not going to apply to everybody, okay? Please take all of this with a grain of salt. Not all of this applies to everybody. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be more and more concentrated and more extreme as you get closer to the center, okay? If you live further and further out in the world, then these things are going to be less and less impacting on your life. All right, so there's the mind reset. These are the dream crabs that I talked about in my other plasma videos. The dream crabs that try to attach to the head to basically possibly upload your information, okay? I believe this is the whole purpose of all of it. It's data mining. It is the harvest. It's collecting all the experiences, all of the information, and it's going to send it all to the neuron or to the world galactic library, whatever you want to call it, to God, whatever it is. It's going to send all the world's information. It's going to upload it to the cloud, basically, okay? In order for a greater good. There is a greater good. To, you know, whatever is happening in the macroverse, whatever is happening above us is the same thing that we go through up here. We collect all this information in our brain, all these experiences, and we use that information in the Rolodex of our mind in order to make decisions. Should I go left or should I go right? Should I wear red or should I wear blue? Should I be mean or should I be nice? You know? And I speculate that that's why the information is being gathered. And that's why the aliens are always shown sucking out people's brains, wanting to eat people's brains. Matter of fact, if the zombie apocalypse does happen and the zombies turn out to be not so nice, okay? If they're not nice zombies, if they're bad zombies, right? Well, whatever, you know, game on. Bad zombies. I don't know what to tell you. But what if the plasma inhabits the corpses, right? Which are just vessels that don't have a driver. So they jump into one of those vessels. They get up. They're all zombified. And what if their goal is to go around finding the people who are not the zombies? Because I speculate also that plasma, as a sentient being, can see on many different levels on our electromagnetic spectrum, as can various animals. And our vision is very limited. And that's why Superman has X-ray vision, and, you know, there's gamma rays out there and other types of wavelengths, okay? But what if the plasma that enters into a corporal or a dead body, right, a vessel, brings it to life, and what if its goal, I'm just saying, what if, they could be nice zombie people, I hope they are. If they're not, what if their goal is to get you to open your eyes, just like in the movie Skyline, right? They want everyone to look at the light. They want to make sure everyone is possessed. Everyone gets attached to the plasma, the dream crabs that attach, the very smallest part of the plasma tentacles, basically, okay? They're very small, very tiny. They're like sprites, okay? They're like, people will probably actually describe them as sprites and pixies and fairies and all sorts of fantasy creatures, which, by the way, is an entirely different topic, which I will touch on. Fantasy creatures becoming reality once more, okay? All of our mythical creatures and all of that, okay? But that's just a theory I have about the zombies. What if that's what they're trying to do, There's been a few movies that have had that as a theme as well. But what if that's what they're trying to do? If they're trying to go to all the people who are either blindfolded, just like in Bird Box, or hiding, and they're trying to pull them out so that the plasma can do a thorough job of cleaning out our world. That doesn't make them bad. You know what I mean? That's looking at things from a very polar viewpoint, right? It just means they're doing their job. Doesn't mean you have to like it, but that's a possibility, okay? I'm just throwing that out there, okay? Let's see, what else do we have here? The mind reset, the data harvest, massive fires. There's going to be fires all over the place, okay? The Bible says 1/3 of the world will be burning up, okay? It is survivable, but yes, there'll be a lot of fires. So keep that in mind when you're doing all your personal preparations for wherever you live. Also, please don't ask me, what's it going to be like in Kentucky, or what's it going to be like in Australia, or what's it going to be like here? I research my own area. I can only give vague generalities about other geographic regions, okay? It's going to be up to all of you guys to research your areas and your geography. Obviously, if you live in Florida by the beach, you might want to beware of the water, right? That could be a problem. Or, just take your location into consideration. Or as it was said in one of my favorite movies, a true ninja is a master of himself and his environment. Let's see who can guess that. Let's see. Massive fires, electrical scarring of the world, canyons, craters, columns, etc. Strong winds also will be prevalent. The moon will break. The light will reverse. The light will return. Remember, the world's going to go dark, and then the light will return. The light will come back on. However, it's going to be pointing in the other direction. Instead of light coming down towards us, light will go upwards, okay? Which means all the stuff that is behind the sun, the light in the sky, that focal point that we call the sun, everything behind that, we'll see all of it. For those of you who have a different cosmology, you will see space in all of its beauty, all of its entirety. As a matter of fact, that reminds me, a lot of you have strongly recommended that I go watch Aquaman. I have watched Aquaman. Let me tell you, the entire way that Atlantis is portrayed, the whole underwater, everything glowing and stuff, that is exactly, as I was watching the movie, I'm like, that's space. That's what space is. That's exactly, God, I hope that's what space is. You know what I mean? Because space right now is a dead, lifeless place. Like, space sucks, man. I don't know how people can really even be into space. Like, it's just so dead and so, like, there's nothing out there. Like, it's a very dead concept. Aquaman's Atlantis, that being space, I could see that. I can dig that. As a matter of fact, that is the... I forgot what they call it in Ant-Man, but it's the same thing as my concept of the fractal verse, okay? It's just the microcosm, okay? Ant-Man goes into this tiny world where everything's sort of glowing and weird, or the Avatar world. That's how I envision, quote-unquote, space to be, all right? Space, to me, is a lot cooler than just black darkness and vacuum and nothingness, okay? I see it as being the world of Aquaman. That's how I like to see it. But then again, I like to picture my Jesus in a tuxedo t-shirt because, it says I'm serious, but I like to party. It's probably not even how it goes. Anyway, finishing things up here. The moon will break, the light will return, the light will reverse and go upwards. So all of the sky will be revealed. You will see some very amazing things, possibly even the other worlds that are right outside of our reach, okay? They're not as far away as we believe that they are, that they're little tiny dots in the sky that you have to use a microscope. When the light reverses, I see the evidence that says we will see all of these different realms, all of these different worlds that are right outside our world. Let's see here. The plasma will leave. Now think about that. The plasma will leave, but the world will be sealed back up. Okay, once the electromagnetics turn back on, the confinement dome will be reinstituted. The plasma will go up and around the confinement dome, conforming to its shape. The plasma will generate water, as plasma does. That water will instantly freeze, and the holes that have been made will fill back up. They'll instantly seal back up, which means we will have an influx of plasma in our world. Now, what will a world saturated with plasma be like? There's a lot of really interesting things to speculate about. I look forward to hearing your ideas, your theories on what a world saturated with plasma will be like. Personally, I believe that we're going to have an increase in oxygen at that time. I believe that people are going to grow just like they did. Our lifespans are going to be instantly increased by hundreds of years, and a lot of good stuff's going to happen for those people who survive this. But I'd love to hear all of your thoughts, especially the return of the fantastic creatures and the mythical creatures and things. Gravity will fall back down, or it will return to its prior position, okay? Meaning those things that are near the top of the dome, like I said, everything's getting pulled up that high up, okay? So all that stuff that's already up there, whoosh, it's going to stay there, okay? So yes, there could be land up there. There could be dirt and oceans and water and beings and animals and people. There could be all kinds of stuff up there. But our gravity, our force, will return back to normal down here, okay? It might even be less gravity to start off with. Who knows? Maybe the electromagnetism, maybe that force gets stronger and stronger all the way up until the very last moment. I don't know. I'm speculating, but you know, it should be very interesting. Either way, things will return to normal. You'll be able to stand up and walk around on the ground again. Everything that's up there will fall back down, so be careful and watch out, right? Our world will basically be a junkyard world, which is why you have so much junkyard symbolism in music videos and movies and television and stuff. And we're going to go through all of that junk, and we will reestablish a cargo cult type of a world as we are interested in all the things that we find, you know? Some people might make religious emblems out of the cargo that we find. Some people might look into these things. Some people might hoard it and try to hide certain things. It's all the same circle of life. It will rehappen again and again. There will be no ocean. The Bible actually says, when this was all said and done, I looked and I beheld, and there was a new heaven, which is a sky, a new sky. The sky's going to look brand new. It's going to be a red sky. That's important, okay? That's what's up with all the red sky symbolism. It will be much easier on the eyes. Those of you who are photophobic, or you just feel like the sunlight is just like, oh my, like, wow, turn that sunlight down. That's how I feel. This is good news for you, okay? Because you're going to live in a twilight world. It's going to be an amber colored world. It's going to be very orangey, sherbety, pinkish, purpley, very beautiful. A very beautiful world. Easy on the eyes. There will be no ocean. There may be still large bodies of water and stuff, but nothing like the ocean that we have today. We have one ocean, okay? One huge flooding, all right? There will be a cargo cult, landfill, let's see. Oh, people may actually develop powers. So that's going to get more into the implications of what happens afterwards. And I'm going to save that for another video. But a lot of people are going to actually develop psychic powers and abilities. Your DNA is going to be activated and change. Not everybody. So you're going to have the whole X-Men war going on, you know. I don't know if that'll happen the way it happens in the movies, but that's where that comes from. People will have telepathy, the helpers will come back, and the story starts all over again. That is the plasma apocalypse, okay? I know this was a very long video, so I don't blame you if you want to watch it at twice the speed later on. That's how I watch all my videos, and I highly recommend doing that. Matter of fact, I would leave a comment recommending the speed that you find to be comfortable to watch this video at. All these things will help. I encourage all of you, please leave your breadcrumbs about the topic in the comments section, or if you're in the chat right now, leave some things and add to it. Leave something of value for other people to pick up on, right? You know, it's a good time. It's a good time for us to all come together. Chang Chang! Hey, Chang Chang just subscribed. Welcome, Chang Chang. All right, let's get back to the live scene. That way, Chang Chang. Hey, what happened there? Oh, it's a slideshow. Well, there's your stuff there. Well, it's supposed to fall into the cup when someone subscribes. Little YouTube icon falls into the cup over there. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. Before we leave, I just want to plug myself real quick. I want to give everybody a heads up. Members, you can send me, you have access to my email in the community tab for members. Please send me your videos, your pictures, your links, and anything else that you feel is relevant, okay? I only ask that you keep it relatively short because I do get a lot of emails. So just please try to get right to the point. That way I can just get right to it and, you know, be able to reply and everything to everybody. But yes, please, if you find something that is related, like a breadcrumb in the movies or a news article or something, go ahead and email me and send it to me if you feel like it's something that I may find useful. That way I can share it with other people. Let's see here. Thursday, April 25th, 2019, I will be at the Celebration Metaphysical Store here in Colorado Springs. I'm going to be doing some workshops every month for a while. The first workshop is going to be called The Awakening of the Enlightened Mind, and that's going to be starring me. I'm going to be there. So if you'd like to come and meet me and hang out with me and participate in the workshop, I'm going to be talking about all the people waking up. I'm going to be talking about this awakening that is happening around our realm, why it's happening, what you can expect if you're kind of new to the process. And I'll be there to, you know, give some of my own suggestions, my own experience. And I'm going to go from there into other workshops like mud fossils. I'll do a whole mud fossils workshop. We'll do a bunch of plasma apocalypse workshops and stuff like that. But this is going to be the first one, and I'm really excited about it. Some people have already told me that they're signing up and they're going to meet me there. I'm excited about it. I know some of you guys don't live in the local area. That's okay. Maybe one of these days I'll be in your area and we can hang out together. It is $20 for the workshop. So I want to throw that out there. It's $20 if you want to come and go through the workshop. Afterwards, I possibly will be hanging out, you know, in the building and just hang out and talk with everybody who has, it depends on how many people show up. Okay. But I will hang out for a little while afterwards, just in case people want to just say hello and, you know, maybe just say hi and things like that. Last but not least, Thursday, April 4th, I have the honor of being interviewed by the Twilight Epiphanies radio program. Let's see, I think I actually wrote this down in a note. Yes, I am honored to be interviewed by Cindy Magnuson via Twilight Epiphanies radio on FFRN. I should probably do it in my radio voice, huh? I'll be honored to, for those of you joining us tonight. No, I can't do it. Anyway, I'll be on FFRN. It will be Thursday, April 4th. I'm going to put a link in the description. So just go down, click on the link, and it'll take you right to the website, right to the radio website where you can listen in. I'm just going to be interviewed, as are a lot of other interesting people. They're going to be YouTube. They're going to cover a lot of topics. The girl from New Earth channel is going to be interviewed at a later date. Flat Earth British is going to be interviewed. Martin Kinney is going to be interviewed. There's going to be a lot of people. Let's see. So yeah, I'll put a link for that. And I believe the time is going to be, I want to say 6 to 8 Central Standard Time here in America. But like I said, just click the link and, you know, you can get more information about that. I want to say thank you to David LaPointe for his primer fields research. I find it to be very helpful. I also thank everybody else who has ever talked about any of the subjects that I talk about. There's a lot of people out there demanding that I cite all my sources and stuff, you know. Anyhow, I'm very thankful to all of you truth seekers who are out there sharing your path as I am, okay? And finally, Patreon. I'm going to roll the credits here in a minute. Many of you enjoy checking out my credits. All all of my supporting team are in the credits. If you become a member, your name will show up on my credits. Some people have noticed that some people get their own special, picture, your own little picture in the credits and your name all by itself. That is for people who are on Patreon. So if you're interested in getting your own little picture, I'll pretty much put whatever picture you want up there. Otherwise, I'll just put something that I think is interesting or cool looking, and you'll have your own name up there all by itself with your very own picture that goes along with your personality, which I think is really cool. Anyhow, that's all the plugging I'm going to do. Thanks for sitting through all of this. If you'd like to share my video and you think other people would find value in it, go right ahead. I'm honored that people are subscribing, people are joining, becoming members, people are sharing my content. I love it, and I'm honored by it, and it makes me very pleased and happy to be of service to others. I'm JayDreamerZ. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you around. Good vibes, and goodbye.